Champions Material, Season 1. All episodes available now on Apple, Spotify, anywhere podcasts are found. My thanks to all my guests who came through for Season 1. My thanks to you, the audience, for tuning in, for your support. Stay tuned. Bigger and better things are upcoming for Season 2. For now, I present the best of Season 1. Let's go. CJ, I'm going to kick this to you to start it off. Is there a character in the Marvel Universe who is generally considered to be a villain, but in your eyes is actually a hero?
I would have to say no, because when I thought about this question, you gave me this question earlier in the week, right? There are a lot of villains whose philosophy I don't necessarily disagree with. Like, I don't necessarily think they're wrong. However, once they start going about their actions, that's where I have a problem with them, from their actions. Their philosophy, for example, Killmonger is one that's always tossed about with a philosophy that you can understand his viewpoint on, but the actions themselves are, non-redeemable, things of that nature, or let me not say non-redeemable, but they're just not cool. Ghost and Ant-Man and the Wasp, she was just trying to live, right? But the actions make that there. And then, so Helena, so all these people, while I might agree with their philosophy, or they might have a point that I can understand their logic, once you get into the actions, that's when I can't rightfully be like, oh man, no, you're really a hero. No, you're not.
Word.
You're not. But I see your point, so that's for me.
You know what, man? You just touched on something that I hadn't really necessarily considered when, we were coming up with this question, and it was separating the ideology and understanding where they're coming from their actions. And that's a good point. I think that's a great point. I think we have plenty of air quotes villains that if you just remove their actions from what we've seen, either, on film or even taking it deeper into the comic books, you can look at them and say, I completely understand where you're coming from. Now, let's just go ahead and just get right to it. Let's just kill the suspense.
Okay.
Junior, if you only could pick one, what was Junior's?
One artist from the 90s?
Nope. One album. If you can only pick one album from the decade of the 90s, what are you going with and why? Your album of the decade of the 90s.
You know what? Yeah, it's Aquemini.
You get absolutely no argument from me whatsoever.
It has to
be
a
timeless classic.
Somebody tell me one, dude, jump in the comments. Tell me one bad thing about Aquemini. If any of y'all can, tell me one bad thing about Aquemini, and I tell you, you got an argument coming. It's gonna be some furniture moving in that motherfucker. Tell me one bad thing about Aquemini. You can't.
Yeah, timeless.
And if you don't want to believe that, then I'll say, all right, give me one bad comment about Do You Want More? You can't. And those have to be in the same space for me. Aquemini from a lyrical standpoint.
Yes.
Do You Want More from a music standpoint. But both of them hold their own in any argument. Aquemini from a musical standpoint, brilliant. Do You Want More from a lyrical standpoint? Yeah. Black Thought, he's in my top 3. Ooh. Everybody wants to say the same Big Pac, Jay-Z. It's oh no, one of them niggas got to get out the boat. Black Thought is in my top 3.
Shit.
And I will stand by that. I will stand by this statement. Name one whack rapper. One bad hip hop artist that's came out of Philly. I'll give you a minute. Give me one.
You ain't got to give me a minute.
Give me one.
You don't have to give me a minute.
Give me one. Give me one. Give me
that achieved
one.
a certain level of
No.
notoriety.
Give me one bad MC out of Philly.
I don't have one for you. Not that I can think of.
I rest my case.
Join me in welcoming to Champions Material, the men behind We Are Legend. What's up, fellas?
What's good, man? Appreciate you having us, bro. Appreciate you having us.
Absolutely, man. We want to go ahead and introduce these men as we should do so. Every last one of them, they've all been a major part of the creative process and the inspiration for what became We Are Legend. So before we get into it, I'm going to start to my right. Jeremy, kick this off, man.
As I've said before, I am Jeremy Allen Barkley. One of the founding members, Chapel Hill representative, West Indian, and I guess that's all y'all really need to know.
All right, for right now at least. All right.
Oh yeah, what's good? It's Trevo or Travaris Noel, prominent member. We're good, man. In the building, man.
Yes, sir.
I'm Travis. Everybody call me Trav. Chapel Hill representing military brat. Peace and love.
I'm Alfonso Tucker L. Chapel Hill representative. Peace and love.
This is Johnny John Brown. I'm from the Tri-State, but definitely I've become a Chapel Hill representative. And we here, man. It's a blessing to be here.
Absolutely. All right, so let's go ahead and highlight these topics we're going to get into, and then it's time to get started.
Moving on those dreams. That's what We Are Legend is about, is getting out of, Champions Material and getting off of stuck. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the exact same thing in that it's like taking it from just a thought and an idea and a dream and like actually applying action to it. And that is what We Are Legend is about. It's like, pursue that. Whatever it is, whatever your legend is, pursue it.
Listening to what you just said is clear. All of you all bring something unique. So everybody is constantly getting something, getting energy and getting things. Okay, that's a different perspective, but that's just dope. That makes sense as to why you all have gotten where you have gotten with We Are Legend, because every single one of you brings something to the table that elevates everything.
Absolutely. I'm glad you even said that, man, because that's something that still to this day, and don't get it twisted, like I wanted to say this later, but I feel like it's just fitting that We Are Legend is not only a brand that's like designed to instill motivation and inspiration into others, but it inspires us. Like, it's literally the same thing that it does for other people, it does for us as well. And I've always preached to everybody that's in here is like, yo, we all started this for a reason. Like, it's multiple of us with multiple different talents. Some maybe more than others, but everybody has an area where they shine.
Absolutely.
And it's like Voltron. That's what I used to tell them. Like,
Okay.
Like, I can't even get it no more than that. I ain't gonna say Power Rangers because I'm an 80s baby. So it's like Voltron. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need somebody that's the head, the body, the two arms, the two legs. But when we come together, like, we operate at our finest times like that. So it's dope that all of us are able to provide and bring something to the table that's different. And it overall just helps with like the movement of the brand, or the movement itself, and just pushing that message out there. So I'm glad you said it. Like, it's like perfect, bro.
I'm the
Right on
sword.
point. Here you go.
Here
you go.
I'm the sword.
He the leg that forgot to move when it was time to walk.
Bro, a sword is only an instrument, bro.
I know.
Oh, man.
I know nobody was operating that. Nobody was doing that.
Oh, goodness.
I could think about just early on, like once we decided that It was a clothing brand, and we had the name, right? We got the articles of organization, LLC, all that stuff, right? But then it was a matter of like, we had already done the research. Like, let's just keep it 100. Like it was a year of research and talking and planning and discussing before there was ever a product with We Are Legend name on it.
Yes.
But once we got to that point, it was like, okay. And I think this even goes back into your previous question, because I think this is also one of those moments where I realized like we're looking to contract different people or screen printing companies or printing companies to print the shirts for us. And we found one out in Raleigh Screen Print. Shout out to Jessica.
Raleigh. Yes.
Shout out to Jessica, man. Like I'm not gonna lie, like, you know what I'm saying? It was what it was. Raleigh Screen Print was like super far. It was almost like Raleigh Garnerish area. Every time we ordered something, we had to go out there and like pick it up from them. And not that, you know, that's some super crazy task, but when you try to do that on a Friday evening before they close, you got to go to work.
Everybody still had full time.
Everybody was working full-time jobs, so it was still kind of crazy even with that part, right?
And families and all the other stuff that like.
But yeah,
Other
man,
priorities.
like, yes,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely. But it was one of those things where, to go back on your previous question about one of those moments, like when we were setting up orders from Raleigh Screen Print, I think I did the first one, and it was literally 12 shirts. It was 2 shirts, like for each of us, a white and a black. You know what I mean? Just to say, hey,
with the mustard gold.
with the mustard gold on it.
Shout out to the mustard
But,
gold.
yes,
Yes,
man, that was the original, the OG.
Yes.
But nah, like at the end of the day, like it was one of those things where we had done like all of the other processes getting up to it, right? And it was just like, all right, well, what are we doing? Like, let's create a product. We already had the logo and everything down. And shout out to Sleeve. Matter of fact, shout out to Sleeve, Shy Guy, Jonathan Collins, man. Look, y'all definitely go follow him. We'll get into that too. We got a whole Shy Guy collection, but that's my dude, man. And he's done like 85% of the designs that we've come up with. He's been the mastermind behind them. So
Crazy.
But yeah, man, we ordered those 12 shirts, and I think the moment for me was like one of those moments after we ordered those 12 and we put it out there on social media. Didn't even have a website, I don't think, at the time. I'm pretty sure we didn't. And it was the amount of feedback. Like when I went to go put in the next order for other people, man, I kid you not, it was like over 100 shirts. You know what I'm saying? Like over 100.
Over 100.
Over 100. And this was, we only put out the 12 just for us, like, so we could show it and be out there as kind of walking billboards for it. But I not even so much the design, man. I think, you know, people rock with us because they knew us, but people also rock with us probably more so because of the message. So that was definitely one of those times where it's like when I'm putting in this order and realizing, okay, I got 3.5 pages of different sizes, colors, and all this stuff of just that one design. I thought that was crazy right there. So that was one of those things. It's like, okay, we own the song. Like people resonate with this message.
Right.
And that was probably one of the biggest parts, right? But at the same time, when you got to go pay a third party, you know what I'm saying, to do 100 shirts for you. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like that's one of those obstacles too, where it's like, okay, after that second round, we start understanding like, yo, like if this is really gonna work for us, like how do we cut out that middleman? Like how do we get to the point where we're producing that stuff ourselves? And not only that, that allows for faster turnaround times, you know what I mean? And things of that nature. So I think that's one of the things too, is like going from that process of having somebody else printing and doing all the materials for us and giving us the suggestions, was, like I said, shout out to Jessica, because Jessica Raleigh Screen Print, like they literally took our business and then they helped us grow into our own business at the same time. Like she was giving us suggestions like, yo, maybe with this design, you should try this. Oh, we got these foils. It would make it look real nice and shiny. You know, like all of that stuff now, we still use to this day. Like we have our own equipment, you know what I'm saying, that it took us some time to get, but we started doing the research into doing that and getting that stuff. And now we're at the point where we're doing our own production. And the only thing we outsourcing is, you know what I'm saying, the shirts, the designs, just getting all the materials in. But yeah, turnaround times of love. Shout out to Raleigh Screen Print once again, because
Mhm.
I pretty much without Jessica, man, we wouldn't even be at the point at which we are.
I know right now that there are individuals who are listening that are saying, how the fuck did they do that? How did they even get started? Yeah, they may have known somebody, as you all have alluded to,
Right.
but that individual didn't get you to Greensboro and Durham and all these other places. That was every last one of you
Right.
figuring out how to reach out. That is an example of maybe some of the things that others who may be interested in going down this direction, they're apprehensive about. Like, okay, well, you ended up going to other areas and expanding the brand, but how did you go about the process of doing that? You didn't just show up at these other events.
Yeah.
You had to reach out to people and explain what you were about and what We Are Legend was about. Then those other opportunities happen.
Right.
Am I right?
Right.
Learning the business,
Right.
learning the lingo, opening your mouth because a closed mouth don't get fed.
A
Walking up to
closed
somebody with all your pride left at the door and saying, "Yo, we trying to do something else." You know, hey, what can you offer? Or like saying, just meeting with genuine people and like just saying, "Hey, man, help!" Like we trying to do something great. But as I felt like people saw the effort that we put into what we started from at the beginning,
Right.
and were like, "These boys not playing."
Yeah. And they
so
resonated
They're
with the
coming to
message.
get it.
bro.
They're coming to
Like,
eat.
Yeah.
Once you hear that message, man, like I say, there's very few of any people in the world that can tell me that doesn't sit with you, like that doesn't hit home for you in some type of way. You know what I'm saying? Even if you overcome that obstacle that you're in, or maybe you're in that legendary status and position that you want already, but it took something to get there.
It took something.
You know
to
what I'm
get there.
saying? So it's like one of those things where it's like no matter really who you were talking to, the message kind of resonated with them. And then it's just us, man. I think like we've always been just the type of individuals that have been cool enough to just, you know what I'm saying? We get along with a lot of different people, see it from a lot of different ways. And just the genuineness alone, I think is what helps with, allowing people to understand, all right, we're serious about it. We're putting forth the effort. And like, this is something that's real.
So in other words, for the people who want to go out here and get it and do it, it's all about being genuine. It's all about putting your foot in it, making sure that it's something that you want to run with, and just like being fearless. Like you really, I'm so grateful to have had brothers and everybody with us. My parents, especially, other people. It's plenty of supporters. It's too many people to actually sit here and name. That like really felt like, dang, bro, I'm just so happy to see you do it. But like having those people, having that positive energy behind you. If you got that negative energy from anybody, bro, I'm sorry. Like you just gotta leave them be. You ain't gotta stop loving nobody, but you just can't run with it. You gotta stick to those people that are gonna offer you positive things, whether you know them or not. It's a million people in this world that you will never you wouldn't expect yourself to be around. But if you don't give them a chance, if you don't take the moment to know somebody new, or see what people above you can offer you, you're not gonna get there. So you just gotta love what you're doing. You gotta have a passion for it. If it's things that you don't love that you out here doing, do what you gotta do to eat, because your family ain't gonna survive without this money and everything else. Don't never give up on that. Like you gotta do what you gotta do, but always leave those moments for your passion. If you go a whole day without doing something that you passionate about, you cheated yourself out of the day.
I'm going to say, like, it's fun in terms of work, man. Like,
you cheated yourself.
When it's something that you're passionate about and something that you like or you love, you don't feel like work, man. And that's the beauty of it. Like, once you get to that part where you can sustain for whatever your lifestyle is, that's family, children, those type of things, or if it's just you on your own, like, when you can get to a point where you're following your passion and you're getting paid for that, man, it don't even feel like work. It don't.
But you should also find your passion in everything in your day. It shouldn't be a part of your day where you say, where you're not passionate about your kids or passionate about your relationships, or passionate about like even the job you have, even if you don't like the job. You know what I'm saying? I done worked plenty of places that weren't necessarily in the mold of what I want to do. But if you can't find something within that moment or in those times where you can move forward with it, you lost. And so you gotta make passion. It's more discipline, like
Absolutely.
boxing hard as shit. You know what I'm saying? So like, you don't want to go home with bloody knuckles and swole knuckles every day, but like, you know what I'm saying? That like, yes, that part sucks of it, but there's still the passion within it. You have to find what drives you, whether it be like, damn, I just crushed this bag. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, that's what I was loving about it. You have to find the positive in whatever you're doing in life. If you can't do that, like you're not even really like existing or living.
Absolutely. There's a difference between living with the passion and existing without one.
Mm.
We are legend. Your apparel and definitely your message has come a long way in a relatively short span of time. Let's get it to the people out there, a clear understanding of where you are now and where you all would like to see We Are Legend continue to evolve. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Go ahead, John. I think it's perfect for you.
Well, I think definitely where we are is we're in our 4th year of business. Third year of business, excuse me.
Almost 4.
Almost the 4th year.
Coming up on 4.
Yeah, we're coming on 4.
And then outside of that, just still having that desire that we started out with to see this through, have that brotherhood, that loyalty, that unity in this, to want to leave something for our families, to want to, do something for the future generations. Just so many things, that are empowering us to continue to do what we do. That's where we're at, man. Obviously COVID has affected so many of us where, we had to take a moment there and pause, like what is really important, what is really valued and cherished within our lives. But then it was like, all right, after we took that pause, like, all right, now let's get back to the drawing board here. Let's get back to our goals, short term, long term. Let's get back to, seeing this through before any of this pandemic came about. So we're at a time now where we're formulating new ideas.
Yes.
We're getting back to, like as we mentioned earlier, it's so important to stick to your narrative. So it's like, pulling out some of those old designs, pulling out some of those old notes, and being like, okay, where are we at right now? Where do we want to continue to see? So we brought, our newest design with us.
Oh
yeah, we got
shit.
a new one.
Okay,
in.
wait a minute.
That was that special guest I was
Come
talking
on,
about.
man.
But now,
come on, man.
I think it's important, like, in just talking about where we are now, because there's a lot that in this time, the short time we've been talking, that we kind of fast forwarded through, right? And it's important to know that, like, We Are Legend is not about us. You know what I mean? It has nothing to do with the individuals that are sitting here now, everybody that's associated with the We Are Legend name. It really is about the people, and it's about motivating and inspiring people, to follow their passion, like we said before.
Let me just get away from the layout and let me just speak from the heart. If you all did not make the decision to cross the line, to jump, to turn We Are Legend from an idea to a reality, if you didn't cross that line, Champions material would not exist, because I would have still been on that stuck, unsure, not knowing, not having an understanding as to how do I grow in areas where I'm not familiar. How do I do this? Where's the passion going to come from? Where's the direction going to come from? Where's the understanding going to come from? I sat in a Walmart in Durham with Trevo. It was a while ago now. And we sat in a Walmart. And we sat and we just talked about that sometimes you have to bet on yourself.
Yes.
If you're too worried about what you don't know, you'll never fucking know it because you'll never get there. Bet on yourself. Live with whatever happens because regardless, win, lose, or draw, you will have learned something about yourself and you would have learned things along the way that you can apply in different areas. That conversation with Trevo at Walmart is the reason why we're here. It's the reason why Champions Material exists. It's the reason why, for all you out there listening now and for those who will listen, we all, myself included, owe a debt of gratitude to the vision of We Are Legend.
Shit.
All right, everybody. My name is Sean Vaughn, and this is Champions Material. We're coming to you different than we normally do because we are in different times. Scratch that. These are not different times. There's just a different level of awareness to the situations that have been going on for far too long. And although we're coming to you not long after first the Milwaukee Bucks and the NBA entirely decided to postpone what was Game 5 of today's NBA playoff series due to the Jacob Blake shooting that occurred, the latest shooting that has occurred. It's a problem that not even sports leagues, one of the 4 major sports leagues can ignore. It's a problem that society can no longer ignore. And it's certainly an issue that will not be ignored on Champions Material. Today, joining me, and this was just literally off the cuff, and I appreciate this gentleman for coming on. From the Villains and Vinyl podcast, he was nice enough to join on the previous episode of Champions Material, where we were talking about a more lighter topic, all things Marvel. But me and this gentleman, as I alluded to on that episode, we have known each other for a long time, and we have had several conversations about anything and everything. And it was only appropriate to have him back, and I appreciate him coming on. My man, CJ. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you for having me, man. I wish it was under different circumstances, but yeah, definitely. Let's get into it, man. I don't know anything else. I feel wrong saying anything else, but let's get into it.
We talked about this briefly before we came on about 2020 was going to be a year that we would look back on years from now. That was going to be one for the record books. I feel like, or for the history books, excuse me, that's more appropriate. I feel like, years from now, we'll talk about the world and society just at large, pre-2020 and post-2020. Where do we go from here, man? Is it going to be another Jacob Blake within the next couple of weeks somewhere else? Like, where, big picture, do we go from here?
Here's the thing, I'm not gonna act like I am smart enough to know, because I don't. I don't have that answer. I would think, I would lean on people like Project Zero, which has a really good database on police shooting, attacking it from a data perspective.
Good point.
The Black Lives Matter leaders and groups, and don't think that everybody that at a protest is Black Lives Matter or part of that group just because they're at that protest. Because a lot of times we like to attribute that violence to Black Lives Matter when it's not even people that are there.
Right.
Even though that anger is understandable, I just want to make sure that we are getting that point right too, because I see a lot of people try to say, oh, well, Black Lives Matter is rioting, when a lot of times it's not even the people who are associated with Black Lives Matter or that organization, or even Black people in general, who just being real. So, I lean on those leaders who are way more educated on this topic than I could ever be because they've kind of dedicated their life's work to it. But I would think it would start with policing and just how you police. I think the first step would be when this type of stuff happens, because I think, we're not stupid. It's going to happen again. Like, we're not, unfortunately, that's the unfortunate part of the situation. It's going to happen again. We all know that, is that these people are started to be held accountable. That's just the first step. That's the bare minimum. When these situations occur, these officers need to be held accountable. There needs to be a trial. They need to be charged, things of that nature. And then you go from there, and that's just my thinking on it. Somebody who's way more educated might have a completely different opinion on it. But I would think the bare minimum is you shouldn't be able to kill a man and be home for dinner. You shouldn't be able to shoot an unarmed man and be home for dinner. That's just that just kills me that's the truth of it. So holding those people responsible, the policing of minorities just has to change. So I don't know how we get there, but I think that's a step. And then institutional racism and the systematic racism as a whole has to be addressed as well. But unfortunately, with the person in office, I don't know if we're going to get to do that in any meaningful way on a national level.
Yeah, so many discussions that need to be had, but I think a key word that you mentioned a few times was be educated. I think, and becoming better educated on just what's going on here just starts with being a willingness to be open-minded and have healthy conversations, sometimes uncomfortable conversations, and conversations where you can keep a cool head and be willing to listen, to everyone's opinion. It's not just people listening to your opinion, but listening to everyone's opinion, just to have an understanding. Even if when it's all said and done, you agree to disagree, at least you can understand.
Something I thoroughly believe in is, man, vote. Like, that's something I thoroughly, wholeheartedly, humbly believe in, because I do believe you can affect change at the ballot box if you keep your foot on their neck. That doesn't mean just vote for the presidential election. That means we have to be educated on who your local judge is, because chances are those are going to be the people affecting citizens in our neighborhood and affecting the local police prison population and things. Be up on who your councilman is, be up on who your local DA is, things like that. Like, we need to keep our foot on their neck. And because what they count on is we show up every 4 years, and then we kind of just back. Even the Democrats do that. Like, to be fair, that's not just a Republican thing. The Democrats, they come through, kiss our babies, be like, hey, how you doing? Every 4 years, like, we love y'all, we stand by y'all. And then after that, or they use us when they need to get a point across as far as, we want to fight for this in the budget for lockdown or something like that. But we need to keep our foot on their neck. So I'm a wholehearted believer in voting as one of the strategies that we should use. I know it's just one. I'm not saying voting cures all or is going to do everything, but I do believe it's one part of the strategy that we should be using. And that's just my personal belief.
Well said. I'm right there with you. And thank you for bringing that up. Vote. Anybody and everybody listening, vote. Here's where I am at this very moment. I spoke with my son, and my son, as I mentioned before, has just turned 13 this past Monday. Happy birthday, champ. Dad loves you, man. Proud of you. And hearing from him, the George Floyd situation was the first time I had him watch the video from start to finish. And he was shook up. It's one of those, like, you hear things from your parents and you hear things from people, but when you see it, it just hits different. And at that time, he was shook up. You know what, CJ? This situation, he shook his head and he said, I'm not going to give him a reason to do anything to me. A 13-year-old boy shook his head and said, I'm not going to give them any reason to do anything to me. I said, do you have anything else you want to get into? And he said, no, I'm okay, Dad. We talked about everything when Mr. Floyd died for nothing. Keyword for nothing. He's 13.
And here's the other part of it that's uncomfortable. He don't have to give them a reason. Like like we can do everything right and still end up dead. And here's the thing, man. Like the same conversation you're having with your son, you're gonna have to have with your daughter, because we don't talk about the police violence against women enough in this country, right? And particularly Black women. And that's something that, like, Breonna Taylor killers are still eating. They still chilling with their family, living, and they didn't even go into the right house. Like, and they can still hold their head up, and they can. And here's the thing: they can still do their jobs. Like, that's what I'm saying.
Wow.
And I'm sorry, maybe they have let some of them go. I don't want to misspoke, but the fact that they're still free is the issue, and the fact that your son doesn't have to give him a reason. Your daughter doesn't have to give him a reason. You know, and I know from personal experience, you just can. That cop can just be in a bad mood that day, and
Wow.
things can go completely left. People are just now starting to acknowledge everything that Black people are saying. All Black people aren't lying when they say, hey, you know, if most Black people could tell you, if you put 10 of them in the room, I promise you about at least 7 of them. I don't want to say all because I don't want to pay this as a monolith, but at least 6 to 7 can tell you of a negative experience with the cop when they know that negative experience was totally based on just their race, nothing else. And so we're not lying when we say, hey, police treat us differently than they treat you. That's all we've ever yelled. They've treated us differently. They've over-policed us differently from the way they treat you. You as a white person, and I am talking to white people on this one, are probably more likely to use you make up more drug users than us, but we go to jail more often for drug-related offenses, which is crazy. Like, the justice system treats us different. That's just a fact. So hear us and acknowledge us and work with us. Like, we're not asking for much more than that. All we're asking for is equality. I don't get why that's something crazy to ask for.
Now, with me today to discuss all things Air Jordans and other shoe lines, my guy, a sneaker historian. He's definitely an enthusiast. He knows his stuff from Stay Copping Kicks. That dude, Curtis, my man, Curtis Harvey, man. Welcome to Champions Material. Glad we was able to do this, brother.
What's up, Sean? Appreciate you having me, man. I'm glad to be here.
So let's go ahead and get this thing started, man. The separator. I'm going to kick this off to you to get started, Kurt. In your view, what made Jordans different from all the other shoes that came out before them? What stood out about the Jordans to you?
Well, to me, Sean, it was the total package. From the design, the advertising, to Jordan himself. Jordan wasn't the first athlete with a signature shoe, as you mentioned, but no company before had put so much effort behind the design, the marketing for any player's shoe. When you think back to that time and the time before, I mean, we did have great players with signature shoes. You know, you like you said, the Converse weapons. You think about the Converse Pros that Dr. J wore. You think about the Pumas that Walt Clyde Frazier wore. A lot of players had shoes, but usually the thing that made it, quote unquote, their shoe was just it being a slightly different color. Or it was just the fact that all of them wore the same shoe. Like, you know, again, mentioning the weapon, think back to that commercial, you know, Bird's got his green ones, Magic's got his yellow and purple ones, and then most of the other guys just had plain black and white ones. The Air Jordan was all Mike's. It was his name, his logo, and all that was revolutionary for the time. The shoe itself looked similar to contemporaries, but at the same time, it looked futuristic. You know, there was a New York Times review at the time that referred to the shoe as looking like a moon boot. But just when you think about the way it was made, the paneling of the leather allowed for colorways and designs that weren't seen in the competitors' offerings. And even though it was based on, you know, partial truths and misinformations, like with the whole band storyline about the Jordan 1, which really wasn't the Jordan 1, and then a legendary ad campaign that they used for it, it just made people more interested in the Jordan 1 and what this young guy from North Carolina was doing on Chicago basketball courts. When you think about it, when it comes to big moments, and you always remember where you were, you always remember the atmosphere of the time. And when you're talking about basketball and players, those moments always include the shoes that they were wearing. And that goes for any player. You know, I remember LeBron and his Soldier 10s for the block in 2016 against the Warriors, completing the 3-1 comeback. You know, I remember Penny Hardaway dropping 40 back-to-back against Miami in the phone posits. I remember Iverson with the step over in the answer 4, or of course the killer crossover on Mike himself in the questions. Shoes are forever intertwined with those moments, especially in basketball. And when Mike came around, he came around at the perfect time. ESPN and, you know, the 24-hour news media were just reaching new levels. And because of that, you saw Mike's moments over and over and over. I mean, shoot, we still do. You know, that's part of the reason why so many people think Mike, you know, and you know, we'll get into this discussion later, but so many people think Mike is like undisputed greatest, undisputed, made more shots than anyone else, had more big games than anyone else, all these ideas that aren't actually true. Like, I mean, he had a number of great shots and everything like that, but there are other players who have done similar things. The difference was, you know, when media was coming alive, Mike was doing it. So, you know, I mean, I think back to when I was a kid. I mean, I had the Come Fly With Me video, I had the Michael Jordan Playground video, and I used to watch those videos every day. You know, so that's every day me watching him, you know, with the shot over Elo, him dropping 63 against the Celtics, him with the shrug against Drexler, you know. So you start building those memories in your head, and what comes with them is the shoes. And then Mike was always, you know, he was the coldest, you know, with him being from the country, having the background that he had, you know, being the loner, it just shaped him as a different type of dude. As you mentioned earlier with that dunk contest, you think about it, you know, he was wearing the Jordan 1s, he was wearing the all black color, or the black and red colorway. You know, instead of wearing the Chicago gear out there, he had on the Jordan jumpsuit, with the flight jacket and everything. Didn't take it off in the first round. Had the gold chains, was doing crazy dunks, and because of Mike's size and athleticism, you know, it just made everything he did look effortless. You know, when you think about some of the other players out there, like, especially in the dunk contest, bigger guys are always at a disadvantage because they're so tall, everything looks easy, or looks too easy. You know, smaller guys, they have an advantage because everything looks a little harder, but because they're smaller, they don't have as much time in the air, or they can't do as much because they don't have the proper vertical. But, you know, with Mike being, you know, 6'6", around 200, he had this body type that just was the perfect size. I mean, most people say that's the perfect size for an NBA player in general. And then because he had his high vertical, and he just was able to it felt like he just was able to stay in the air a little bit longer, and he was so smooth with it, it just made him stand out even more.
What is it about the impact of the Air Jordan, really just the line, particularly the shoes, that makes them still have such an impact today?
Well, a lot of that has to do with the fact that, you know, when it comes to fashion and culture in general, you know, hip hop and Black culture has always driven the trends around the world. So with basketball and hip hop being so intertwined since their inception, Jordan always bridged that gap further, because you had rappers wearing the shoes, which trickled down to dope boys and kids in the neighborhood. And then you had the rich white guy who loves sports and wants to feel cool and exclusive buying the shoes. I mean, if you ever watched Seinfeld, Jerry's shoe game was ridiculous. In every episode, he had a pair of either like J's, he had some Bo Jacksons on, some Andre Agassi's, but he had like all the J's. And those were his real shoes. It wasn't anything that was provided by wardrobe. And of course, some of it, you know, the impact happens on accident. You know, you think about like Nike SB, that was born out of the fact that the Jordan 1 was such a hit, that Nike overproduced them. And because they overproduced them, the extra pairs ended up getting sent to outlets discounted from the original $65 to $20. So then you got skaters who they don't really care about basketball. They're looking for a new shoe because with good grip, and then they pick up these Jordan 1s at Sears, and then they end up loving them. And then now they're more interested in Nike in general, as well as, who's this Michael Jordan guy? Does he have any other shoes that are dope? And then once all that kind of happens, the impact of the shoe just keeps spreading and spreading.
Now, you know what? Let's go ahead and get into it, man. This is what I was looking forward to. Your top 3. Now, and I know this is tough, and I know it was tough for me, but if you could only pick your top 3 Air Jordan models ever, what would they be and why?
All right, so with this question, for a long time I had one answer, and then as I started looking at my shoe collection, I realized that answer couldn't be correct because I had way more pairs of another version. So my answer now would be the 11s, the 1s, and the 6s. Where previously the 1s would have been replaced with the 3s. But I started looking at my collection, and when I got 10, 12, 11 pairs of 1s compared to maybe I think I got 6 or 7 pairs of 3s, I was like, whoa, maybe the 1s are actually the ones I like better. But yeah, those 3 are the ones that I love. Like I said, starting with the 6s. The 6s are my favorite Jordan from the earliest years. That's the one he won his first title in. I love the design of the shoe, from the heel tab to the tongue grips, the way the shoe is designed after his Porsche that he had back in the day. I love those elements. The color blocking, because there's a lot of great colorways for the shoe, from the carmines to the infrareds, the sport blue, the maroons, the PSGs that came out a few years ago. There's so much you could do with that shoe in terms of the blocking, and they've come out with so many just classic colorways that it's a shoe that it doesn't get as much exposure as some of the other ones, but to me it's just as timeless as any of them. The Jordan 11, of course, like I said, they grew on me. But once I fell in love with it, it was a done deal. I love the way it looks. I love the whether it's the mid top, the low top to the low top, the IE versions. I love all of it. That outsole, the way it's designed, the shape of it, the midsole, the carbon fiber on it, everything about it just stands out to me, and it just looks phenomenal. And it's just a favorite of mine. I can, you can dress it up, you can dress it down. There's nothing it doesn't look good with, in my opinion. And then of course the Jordan 1s, which, like I said, a lot of the same things I've said about all the other ones still apply. A lot of great colorways are still coming out with great colorways. The paneling of the shoe just allows for a lot of cool designs. The different materials that they've done with it, from the Flyknit, which I love because they're super lightweight, to, of course, the leather and suede. There's just so much they've done with the shoe. And it's just a classic shoe. It's truly becoming similar to the way people would wear Converse, where it's just the classic, and I hope Nike really embraces that. And it seems like they're doing it, especially with the Jordan 1 mids. There's a ton of mids out there that, I know, quote unquote hype beasts and stuff, and some sneakerheads don't like them because they're like, oh, it's a mid. But guess what? Jordan loves them. He loves mids, and that's why they keep making them. The mids be selling. So, I just hope that they continue with the line and just continue with the dope colorways.
So let's go ahead and get this thing started, man. And before we even get into the 2000s, I know you had an opportunity to listen down to the Volume 1, the decade of the 90s. Like I said, everybody has something to say. What were your thoughts, man? What you think?
So obviously, I already had my thoughts simply being, you left people out of it. You left people out like DMX. You left out of it. You didn't get enough detail into certain things. Now, for me, I'm gonna say, where's the love for Mobb Deep, man? Where's the love for Mobb Deep?
Yeah.
Where's the love for Mobb Deep?
Yeah, I read more than a few emails.
You can't
Yes.
say that Mobb Deep's not in this list. You can't say he's not in here. And I'm not talking about a list of greatest all time. I'm talking about a list of being in the 90s, of being impactful, of being something worth talking about. Shook Ones was something special.
Yeah.
When that came out, that was something special.
So when you think about hip hop in the 1990s, we covered them. We got back to them. We got back to. But when you think about hip hop in the decade of the 90s, what is that to you?
For hip hop in the decades in the 90s?
Yeah, what is the sound of hip hop rap in the decade of the 90s? What did it mean to you?
What's the boom bap era? So for me, the sound is going to be around. See, I have a bias. Let's just get straight to the point. I'm going to have a bias a little bit because it's all going to circle around or center around New York. So obviously a lot of Nas at that time, a lot of Mobb Deep. Obviously, when you've talked about this plenty of time, Mobb Deep is a big influence for me. Definitely listening to a lot of music growing up.
Right.
So you can't tell me nothing when it comes to Mobb Deep. I know they had their flaws, obviously, but for me, Survival of the Fittest, Shook Ones, Give Up the Goods, things like that. That sound to me is what incorporates the 90s.
Right.
That grittiness to it. Like you listen to the songs that even for the 2000s, there's a difference. There's a difference. I'm not saying that it doesn't hit the same. There's not that same impact, but we knew there was a transitional phase going on when we got to the 2000s, obviously with the South making its, rise up. People now paying attention to them a lot more. Outkast made their point in the 90s, and it definitely came true in the 2000s. What he said, the South had something to say, and that's what happened. But if you just
shout out to the Source Awards, yeah.
But if you're sticking just with the 90s itself, you can obviously throw the West Coast in there as well. I was listening to a lot of that, but the South, I can definitely say for me, I wasn't really. I mean, there was a few little bit of people for me that I listened to, Ghetto Boys, freaking Outkast with AT-Aliens. That was my joint when I was a kid, mind you. So I wasn't really sonically paying attention to him, but that's also because I had an older brother also who, being from New York, we were listening to East Coast, so boom bap. But us, that's everything, especially if you like to rap, if you can actually rap on a boom bap beat, then you can do that on anything. That's what it's meant for. It's meant for you to actually spit. It's meant for you to be heard. Right. So that's what it means for me,
Word. That's what's up, man. You know what, man?
Yeah.
I was going to try to wait to get into this, and I can't wait any longer.
Here we go.
And ironically, this man had an album called The Massacre, because that's exactly what he did. Of course, there have been other examples of this, particularly throughout the, hip hop rap history, again, whatever you want to call it. There has not been a more prominent example, in my opinion, before or since, of one man killing, destroying, ending another man's career.
I see where you're going here.
As 50 did to Ja.
Where's Ja
Rule? What happened, man?
Yo, there's documentaries that go on that go deeper than me, but I'm not surprised that what happened to Ja happened to him. If you go through the history, just knowing everything that was behind that, I'm not surprised. 50 had a better engine behind him. 50 had a better background story behind him. 50 had better music to support the background story that he was going with. I'm sorry, Many Men, there's no competition if you put Many Men up to the majority of Ja songs. I can't think of a Ja song I'm gonna put up with Many Men. And that's not a slight against him, because the older I've gotten, I care more about quality than quantity, So we do know that Ja has quality. There's nothing you can take away from that man. The songs that people get always play for him, always there on time, things like that. You can't take that from that man, because they still knock today. They really do. You can throw that on and just get a vibe, especially if you got your lady over, she wanted to, whatever, let her rock to that.
Understood.
So you can't knock that from him. But when you're talking about the energy, you're talking about the impact, you're talking about the aggression, you're talking about even the charismatic nature that 50 had.
Yeah.
there was nothing that you can even say. And then now you put the engine of Dr. Dre and Eminem behind that too. And you have Aftermath, you even had some of Flip Mode.
Yeah.
Because you had Bus jump in there too.
Ron Digger. Had to get her in there. Sorry.
Yes. You hear me? So
Pharaoh.
so just incorporating everything I said, there was just no way for Ja to be able to come back.
Today with me on Champions Material, we're going to talk about a little bit of everything. And I'm glad to have this young woman on, the First Lady, coming on with me. This is S. Joe, a.k.a. Sammy. What's going on, Miss Lady?
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. What is poppin'?
Shit, apparently a little bit of everything, man. The streets been talking. Everybody has been reaching out. You know, they wanted me to get into this. So the topic that we're going to be talking about today is called entanglement. So look, I'm going to just put it straight out to you. You heard about, when entanglement came across your timeline and you realized everything that was going on, with that Will, Jada, August, just what was the first thing that you thought about? Like, how you feel about this whole thing?
Okay, so to be honest with you, I've seen this stuff on my timeline, but I try to be very intentional with how I use social media. So I don't really ever feed into celebrity drama or gossip or anything like that. So when you asked me to be a part of your podcast and I figured out what the topic was, I had to go home and do homework. So actually, I knew what it was. I knew about it when it was blowing up the internet, but I didn't ever watch any of the interviews or anything like that. So I went home that night. I watched August's interview, then I watched Jada and Will's interview. And to me, it wasn't too crazy. I was like, that's it. That's all the internet blew up about. The internet took that and ran. And then I had to go and read the lyrics to his song that he made with Rick Ross called Entanglement. So that to me breaks it all down, in my opinion. But as far as her speaking on that and how she was using that term with Will, as I was watching it, I was like, she's referring to a relationship. Why isn't she just saying relationship? Like, yes, you guys were separated. You were in a marriage. You were still married, but you guys were separated, which tons of people go through. And you ended up in a relationship while you were separated. So I think for her, the reason why she was choosing to use the word entanglement instead of relationship is because she was actually, you're in a relationship, you're married, but you are separated from that specific person. But because you're not fully separated as far as being divorced and actually not attached to this person anymore, you didn't have the right to or feel comfortable calling what you had on the side within your relationship, calling it a relationship. So you chose to use the word entanglement. But after Will corrected her and was like, hey, what do you mean entanglement? You mean relationship? She was like, well, yeah. And then after that, she just used the word relationship. So when I watched that interview, it didn't seem like that much of anything except that's just the word she chose to use. But when I read the lyrics to August's song, I was like, okay, see, this breaks it down. Have you listened to the song?
Yes, I have. And that man had him some things to say, didn't he?
He did. So I have, just for my side notes, so I knew what I was going to be referring to. I think that he just, this just makes more sense. So some of his lyrics, girl, I know we don't call it a relationship, but you're still fucking with me. Okay, we get that part. Those are the things I think that she was feeling when using that word, but not actually referring it to that. You were in an actual relationship with somebody. You guys just didn't label it. You didn't go out there and tell the world this is what you two had going on, because the world knows you in your actual relationship and your marriage with this man, not knowing all the details with your separation. So of course you're not going to label things this and that, especially as a celebrity. But I think for us, for normal non-celebrity people, right. That happens all the time. People end up separated, end up with a little boo, a little relationship. And I think that that's very common. So it also piqued my interest how much the internet took that word and ran with it. like people in our daily lives that our family members don't do the same thing, or like it was foreign to us. But I think it was just the fact that she used that word, it was hilarious to people. So what would you do if you were, whether you were in a marriage, getting separated, or just being involved with a person, as far as being involved with a person who you are teeter-tottering that line with, and they wanted to address you with like, hey, I really like, it ain't nobody else I want but you. And I know we're in a relationship, but I want you. So it's good. How it, and you didn't really want that, but you didn't want to not be in whatever relationship that you have with them. Like you don't want to be in a relationship with them, but you don't want to cut them off. You still want to be involved with them the way that you are. But they're like, I just want to be with you. Like you're at your life. I want you to be husband.
Beyonce time, put a ring on it. Hold on. Let me
What you do?
let me get a little
Take a little sip. I should have made me a drink.
Yeah, a little red cup moment right there. But no, good question. And again, we talked about it depends on the situation, it depends on the person. Because sometimes it's not that you're not thinking about something in a certain kind of way because of that person. Sometimes you're just not thinking about it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, if you at a job and you're like, you cool, like you ain't thinking about, doing something different or, going over here and doing that. You may not be thinking about it, but if that opportunity comes to you, you might be like, well, shit, I wasn't thinking about it, but since you said something.
Right.
Where I'm coming from,
Yeah.
So the same thing can apply in this situation where, because we had an understanding at the beginning that, as they say in Love Jones, this was just, it's a physical thing. We just kicking it. I didn't think about anything beyond that. But we know how it is. You're around that person, even if it's primarily for, certain reasons. You get to feel them out. They get to feel you out. And if something like that was brought to me, I would take a minute to think about it and just be like, okay, well, when it comes to this, we vibe there. When it comes to that, we vibe in there. And again, we can all adapt in every relationship. You, me, anybody listening. We all adapt if we're going to be in a relationship. We know that 110 of it can't be just us and about us and what we like. You do this for me, I do that for you. But one thing we also, I think, both can agree on is there's got to be individually things that you all vibe with that even if that person wasn't there, you'd have been doing, that anyway. Like you and your art. Like, okay, you like art, I like art. Even if you wasn't here, I'll be still killing it with, everything I'm coming up with anyway. So as long as y'all got things that y'all both can, that you relate to as far as what's at your center, all right, then maybe we're having a conversation. But if it's the other way around, and I'm thinking like, well, damn, what do we really do if it's not an appointment? If it's not an appointment, right? If it's not an appointment, if we ain't, if we ain't taking some shots, if we ain't putting one together and knocking it down, and then whatever. Like if we're not really doing that, then what are we really doing here? And if I'm coming up with nothing, then I'm gonna have to just right then and there again be straight up with her and say, hey, as much as I appreciate that, and how I feel about you, that's not what we're doing here, and it's not the space that I'm in. And you got to be willing to be uncomfortable to be like, okay, if you got to be ready for anything. If she takes it one way, you know what I mean? It's what it is. If she takes it the other way, it's what it is. And if you got to take it, be prepared to take an L. But you got to be straight up, clear that bullshit out from the very beginning.
For a woman to, as an individual, be strong and confident about yourself in all avenues, physical appearance, like there's just so much pressure on women, how we look, how we talk, how our hair looks, how our body shape looks. Like there's just so much pressure on all of those things as women to actually walk around and be confident in your skin and to really move that way in your own life is one thing. But then when you add a partner to it, or a sexual partner to that, that's a whole nother avenue of judging yourself, being confident in yourself. Women get sexualized in so many ways. Boobs were designed to feed children, but in our generation, they are glorified in a sexual, attractive manner, and that's not what we were made for. But you know, like I said, that pressure has been created by so many different things, social media, people, whatever. But if you also, I feel like it's important to be with a partner who embraces all of those things about you, that builds your confidence, and to have a partner who understands your true beauty for what it is. If I were me in a relationship, I cannot be with somebody who will get jealous of other men liking me or flirting with me or this to me, because it's naturally gonna fucking happen. I'm not an ugly bitch walking around.
Right.
It is what it is, and I have to be confident in my own skin, and I have to be confident in my skin also in a relationship, despite how this person feels. Like I have to be in a relationship with somebody who understands that part of me, that part of me that I embraced myself. Half the time I don't want to wear clothes. I like to be fucking naked all the time. Is that going to even attract people more to me? Probably so, yes. Are my intentions to be fucking people while out or at the club or this? No. If somebody wants to come and compliment me, thank you very much. And it's okay to do that. But you know, I feel like sometimes it's hard to have self-confidence in yourself, how you physically look, and then also with your partner, how you are in the bedroom. How is your partner viewing you? What is your partner telling you? You know, and then having to show whatever version of you to the rest of the world that you want to. I think that that is a lot of pressure for women, and you really have to have a strong foundation of self-love to not let those things affect you, because it's never going to end. It's always going to be constant, but you will not ever be able to be your true self if you don't ever find that source within yourself. Like, yeah, we don't want to have no boring ass sex. Like, you know how good your shit is. Like, embrace that, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that women who are judging either the song or other women are women who don't have that self-confidence in themselves, or are in a relationship where their relationship is not making them feel that way.
Find yourself, walk in your truth, and don't give a fuck about anything and anybody else and what they got to say if it's not good for you, inside and outside. That's real shit. Yes, yes. As we do that, we're gonna transition into Love Jones. Love
Jones.
Yes, Miss Nina Mosley, my secret BM, but that's a whole nother conversation. Nia Long, I've always had a. Let me not go there right now. And Lorenz Tate, Mr. Darius Lovehall, man, a classic movie, and it's just centered around. And one of the reasons why I think that movie is timeless is because it really centered around the complexity of relationships and just so many different things that go into it. You know, Nia Long, she, like we talked about it earlier, she knew she was done with old boy, but she didn't know. That was a factor. You know what I mean? Darius, he wasn't sure what was going on with Nina, so he had him a little side chick, and she caught that, right? And that was some shit between them. Not until the very end, not really knowing on both sides. Okay, what is this for us, right? We just kicking it, but then we got feelings. But then when we get feelings, the shit gets complicated. And one of my big takeaways, because this shit ain't relationships. This shit ain't easy. Trust me. I've been there. Lord, I've been there. There's a reason why it's not always that dudes are just looking for the physical. Sometimes it's just so much easier than every damn thing else that comes with a relationship. But
like I said, relationship comes with a lot of responsibility, for real.
You know what? You might have just led or began with, the answer to my question. Why are relationships so damn hard, man? Why?
I think it is a lot of responsibility. It's literally a responsibility, because you have to consider, first and foremost, yourself. That already, like we just discussed, for some people is a challenge. Like to be you and comfortable with you. So besides that, you have to deal with yourself, and then adding another whole entity as far as relationship, and no relationship is perfect, and you're never going to love 100% everything about the person that you're with, but you do have to consider, what are you feeding them? What do they get from you? Because when you think about that, they're literally absorbing that part of your energy. And is that a healthy thing, or is that a draining, unhealthy thing? And that's something you got to look at, is what is this person receiving from you? And on top of that, what are you receiving from this person? And is that healthy or not healthy? Whether it's words, whether it's advice, whether it's just sex, like, is it good sex, or is it just the lust type of sex? You know what I'm saying? So I think, not only like do you have to consider those two things, but when you end up in a relationship for a long time, when you come across things that you may not like, or when you just start to try to consider your actual feelings, when you, like I said, when you lay down, how are you actually feeling? Like, what does this person do for your soul and your spirit? It's hard to maneuver in a relationship when there's things that you want to do, but are going to rub your spouse the wrong way, or are not the best interest for them, or your intentions are good and pure, but you're not going to do what you want to do because you know how it's going to make this person feel. And when you start doing things like that, at the end of the day, you're not choosing you anymore, and you're choosing them. And that's what a lot of us do in relationships. We sacrifice so much of ourselves, our time, our energy, and our feelings. We sacrifice and throw that shit under the rug to make this person feel this way and this and that. But when you're doing that, you're pouring your energy into this person. And I think where it becomes complicated, or it feels complicated, and then it feels like not as healthy or embraceful, you feel that way because you're filling somebody else's cup, and your cup is not being filled back.
All right, my turn. Shit. All right. Yes. Talk your shit. Joining me today to dive into all things next gen, and this guy right here is a true original, man. I've known this gentleman for 10 years now, man. Think about that. 10
years, man. That's a long time.
Years. And we actually met within the realm of gaming. And, since then, our friendship has evolved. We've been great friends. We've had some great conversations through the years, especially about gaming, but just about life, Again, a true original. So I had to have him on. Welcome to Champions Material, my guy, Ben Chandler. What's going on, man?
Man, hey, we're here, man. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm excited about it. A lot of people have been waiting. It's been a long wait.
Yes.
With everything with the pandemic, a drip feed of information.
Right,
so
right.
For us to finally get the cards on the table, so close to launch.
Yeah.
It's fever pitch right now, man. So I'm excited. We're ready.
All right. You know what, man? Let's just go ahead and get into this. And right before we do, full disclosure, the host, myself, Sean Bond, I am an employee of Sony, and specifically an employee of PlayStation. But the opinions of Champions Material are mine and mine alone. So I just wanted to go ahead and get that out the way. And now that we have, let's get to it, man. So I'm gonna kick this to you to start, man.
Okay.
Now that, again, we've had the showcases and everything like that. We've seen the systems, we know the specs, the whole nine. Just next gen. Just what was your overall reaction to everything that we've gotten finally, as the information really, got out to us in the last couple of weeks?
So here's the thing for me. Obviously the SSD tech is huge. It's huge because we've been waiting on that for a while. For multiple reasons. One, obviously, these games are getting humongous, over 100 gigs plus. You look at Call of Duty, you look at Red Dead, you look at, so many other titles that are such large open worlds that even recently I was playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And it took me like 3 minutes to get through the load screen at the beginning, just to get the game started. By the time it loaded up, I was almost done already.
Did you have lunch?
Right, exactly.
What's going on here?
Let me make that happen in the dip, Right. So, obviously SSDs have been around for a decade at this point, but we know what happens when consoles, jump in there and it becomes a mainstream thing, which only benefits game development.
Right.
So, with the SSD tech, but more importantly, the advancement that PS5 is making with the IO throughput, things that are hopefully looking to actually change the landscape of how games are developed.
Right.
Instead of it being, the traditional style of, corridor load. How can we do that and put that data so fast through there that we can change the way we think about it, same way virtual reality does. It takes you out of that traditional focus and starts looking at, all right, how do we change the mold and come up with new genres of games, things like that. So both of them have, fantastic technology inside. But if you remember, we had this conversation maybe February, March 2017.
All right, taking it back. Okay.
And one thing that we had addressed, you had asked me a while ago, like if there are any changes that I would make to any launch systems.
Right.
Okay. And I always said and full disclaimer, at one point I've owned every system. Like at one point I had 3DS, XL, Vita, PlayStation TV,
okay.
PS3, PS4 Pro, Xbox One X, and a PlayStation VR. Right. So at one point I literally had like every system.
Had it all.
Right.
Had it all, yeah.
So for me, if it's got games on it that I like and I enjoy a system, I end up owning it at some point. So for me, launch titles are important. And the one thing I always said, as a lifelong PlayStation fan, the one thing I always wanted was, all right, so going into the launch of the gen, have some bangers, have some games ready at launch that day one when I get in, not the promise of a year or two from now, but day one. So when you're talking about Spider-Man day one and Demon Souls day one, and if you look at the content from day one through the entire first calendar year, it's insane. I don't think Sony's ever put that amount of content that is anticipated in the first calendar year that they're out. And number two was, especially with the shift from this past gen into more digital, and the landscape we are now, I got to be able to keep my content. If I can keep my content into the next generation, I don't have a reason to leave. If I start over, I have a reason to look at something else at launch.
Exactly. Okay.
So March 2017, we're looking at the Switch. And we're like, man, looks good, but it's only got 6 games to launch. But it had Zelda. And we said that would be huge for that, even though it was essentially a Wii U port, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then right after that, and it blew up, and we said, Xbox is looking at that going, man, we got to have Halo at launch. We got to have, and we know that debacle.
Got to.
We know that debacle, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Oh, Craig the Brute meme. That one had me dead. It'll be solid. And there's a recent acquisition that shook up the whole industry that, we might touch on at some point. But for the most part, that shifted the narrative of it doesn't matter. They had like 1-2 switch and things and no diss to that, but I'm not buying a console for a party game.
Right.
So that impact was humongous for the uptake of Switch, and then they had Mario at Christmas.
Right.
So the two things I said Sony had to have at launch is what they have, and that is 99% of the PS4 portfolio carry over.
Yes.
You look at the percentage, they're over, I think 113 or maybe probably 114 million PS4s and climbing. So that base doesn't have a reason to leave if they can carry their whole library over.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got bangers at launch, which traditionally, like PS4 was fantastic. But at launch, it had Knack and Killzone Shadowfall, right? And most of us actually ended up playing Warframe a lot, which was on PC already, right? Had Infamous in the spring, and then it was Drive Club and Little Big Planet the following.
Shout out to the Resogun, by the way.
Resogun. I'm sorry.
Underrated.
What a quality title.
Had to get that.
I'm sorry, Housemarque. I love y'all. I do. I'm excited for Returnal, by the way.
Yes.
But traditionally, what would happen is after about the first year and a half, that's when the big titles started hitting for Sony. Then it was nonstop. Right. Yeah. So as big a debacle as Xbox One was, right, pre-launch, if you actually look at that launch lineup, it was decent. They had Dead Rising. They had, even though it was a smaller free-to-play, Killer Instinct. Rise looked good. It was repetitive, but demonstrated, a graphical leap.
You saw effort.
Right.
That's what you saw.
And they had Titanfall coming up in the spring. So they had a solid launch. And the reason they had a solid launch is because they had nothing the last 3 years for the 360, right? They had Kinect games and Gears of War Judgment. That was it.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe me, look it up. So, but they start out 360 heavy, so looking at the impact of having things day one available is huge. So to me, that showed that even though PlayStation had really, regained that kind of confidence and competition, that they did not slack. They did not say, all right, yeah, I know we smashed on PS4 gen, but we're putting all that energy into how can we bring like exclusive blockbuster content in the first calendar year, which they've never put that much into it before.
Do you believe, real quick, do you believe that, you talked about Microsoft looking at what Nintendo did with the Switch launch? Could it be said that we did the same thing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that was important because you couldn't find a Switch when it came out. Zelda was that big of a deal. And of course it was so well made, aside from the weapons breaking. I could do without that feature, but everything else, to be honest with you, and I'm not a big open world game person. You really got to have something that keeps my attention, whether it's the traversal or the environment. Those are the two things for me on open world games that I really have to be into in order to enjoy an open world game like Ghost of Tsushima. Like that's what I love so much about that game. Right. So just to give you an example, like it was a quality title. So I'm hyped, man. I'm excited about, what's to offer, especially from the most recent PS5 showcase and seeing, 7 minutes of Spider-Man gameplay. Man. Seeing that Demon Souls looks absurdly beautiful.
Running those trailers back in 4K.
It'll do something to you.
That was 30 minutes that I can replay, back to back. But
right.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So for me, man, this is, new tech is always exciting. Right. But for the first time in a long time, I'm more excited about the game's day one than necessarily just the tech itself. Like that's how impressive this first year that has shown me for PS5 that nobody else has shown for a whole calendar year. You're looking at, bro, Spider-Man, and obviously Miles Morales is a smaller chunk, right? Like full-fledged 25 hours like the OG Spider-Man, but 10, 12-hour experience, similar to Uncharted Lost Legacy, but still extremely quality title. Demon Souls at launch, which shocked the fool out of me, bro. That was the heavy hitter.
Yeah.
Ratchet & Clank, which was incredible, being able to use the SSD tech to shift between worlds on the fly. Looks incredible. And I'm a huge, huge Ratchet & Clank fan. So shout out to Insomniac, man. They are... They're pulling out all the stops this gen.
They really are.
And then you're looking at Gran Turismo, potentially God of War and Horizon in the first calendar year. That's absurd. Like that's absurd. So as a fan, I can appreciate the fact that they're not resting on their laurels and they're still trying to bring that.
November the 10th. We know what's going on there.
Yep.
And we got to get them in, because ultimately, they are also in the same space within the realm of gaming. The Xbox Series X, the Xbox Series S, we know specs, we know price. What are you, as far as from an Xbox perspective, if anything, and again, this is all about total transparency. Is there anything that you've seen from the system side of things, launch lineup side of things? And of course, we touched on earlier, we know Halo has been delayed, but better late than never. We'll see what they do with that. But also the Game Pass, which the way that they have got that set up, there's some stuff there, man. Right. So like, where are you coming from on the Xbox side of things from what you've seen at this point?
So let me say this, everybody has their own cup of tea, right?
Right.
Like, when I was a kid, I started out Nintendo. PS1 was my brother's. I had a 64. And once PS2 hit, it was the system for me. Okay. But as I stated earlier, I've owned everything at any point, right? So OG Xbox, I was a huge fan of Republic Commando, Star Wars. Shout out Star Wars, love that. KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic, 1 and 2, love those. And original Fable, right? So that was my thing. 360 came along, and aside from the atrocious failure rate of the original 360s, has some killer games, right? Especially, you look at, they launched 05, so they kind of had that space themselves, but Oblivion, BioShock, you had Mass Effect launch, right? So Ninja Gaiden coming back, Ninja Gaiden 2. So they had some extremely high quality But near the end of the 360 gen, I can't believe I forgot Gears of War. Gears of War,
Yeah.
you know, took over third-person cover shooters for that whole generation, right? So, but what happened was, right leading into Judgment, I really started to kind of fall off from what their first party was offering.
Yeah.
Because they had shifted so much to Kinect. And then, you know, once the Xbox One debacle happened and it was cancellation after delay from Fable Legends getting canceled to Scalebound getting canceled to Crackdown 3 being canceled.
That one hurt. Scalebound hurt.
Yeah, Scalebound I was really looking forward to.
Right.
And sorry, Crackdown 3 wasn't canceled, but so poorly delayed. And then when it came out, extremely,
what was that? Right.
Extremely poor reception.
Was that?
So for me, it really was like, man, they really have to revamp that portfolio. Like they really do. So for me, they hadn't shown me much while Sony was getting stronger. That whole Xbox One generation really didn't do much for me as far as the first party content, what they were delivering outside. Now, what they've done in the recent years with the studio acquisitions, and most recently the huge one, right? The elephant in the room, which is, you know, when you're buying out Bethesda and you've got Doom, Wolfenstein, Fallout, Elder Scrolls.
Purchased some ammo, didn't they?
So essentially what that did, but here's what it's everybody's kind of diverging into their own lane. Whereas what happened before, if you remember when Nintendo tried to compete in the same realm with the GameCube, they realized very quickly that's not really where our strength is.
Right.
So, you know, once they merge and create the Switch, that's their lane. You know, that's what they're great at. Sony has mastered being the center console in the living room.
Right.
Microsoft has for years tried to push closer and closer into the PC realm, which is why you saw so many games day and date go Xbox PC and Game Pass. Now, if I'm gonna be fully transparent with you, like looking at it and going, if I can buy a system and pay $15 a month and never have to buy a game, pretty much, you know, if you're looking at the
Day one,
you know, with that huge acquisition.
we talked about that earlier, particularly on Game Pass. Is, you know, they advertised that day one as well.
Day one,
Day
and
one.
you're getting the next, and you know, not just established franchises, but new IPs like Starfield, and you know, new things that could potentially be on the rise. That's extremely enticing. As a gamer who and the older I become, it's more and more difficult to find time, right, to make that investment, but also to invest that level of money, right, for something that I don't have as much time for. So yeah, that's extremely appealing. And obviously, we know it's going to be a couple years before that acquisition really starts to take hold and we see the benefits. But I'd be lying if I didn't say that's a great push for Game Pass, and I think the best justification for Game Pass that they've made so far.
Now, joining me this week is a special guest. On the previous two-part episode of Champions Material, I sat down with the brothers behind We Are Legend. Their clothing brand and the message that their clothing brand is built on has been inspiring to a lot of people, yours truly included. I talked about that with them at that time and at various times since. And watching them take their idea from the ground up and turn it into a reality was something that I was determined to do when I got into the right space to make that happen. And when that time did come, I got encouragement and support from many people. You all know who you are out there, and you're much appreciated. But there was one person who stood out above the rest. It was his voice that was the final push that I needed in order for me to just look myself in the mirror and say, okay, the time for Champions Material is now. And it didn't stop there with him. He selflessly took time out of his days and nights. And trust me out there, folks, there were plenty of nights to show me the ins and outs of this podcast game. His advice, tips, you know, strategies, just the process of recording, editing, everything, you name it, you know, we went through it. Let me put it this way. You know, MJ would have been great regardless, but he ultimately became the winner that he was with Phil Jackson because nobody does it alone. Yours truly included. Everyone, join me in welcoming the Champions Material from the Enigmas Unchained podcast. Trevor Stevens, man, what's going on, brother?
Oh man, we good, homie. This is an honor and a privilege to see you get everything squared away. I've been watching every single doggone episode. I'm on you like a hawk. So I'm a subscriber. I'm a follower. You know, I send you feedback, You know, I'm proud of the work that you're doing, and yeah, I look forward to this. Let's get it.
And speaking of turning an idea into a reality and learning and growing as you go along, Enigmas Unchained. I'm not going to even do like a long lead into it. Over to you. Let the people know about Enigmas Unchained. How did that come about, and what that program is all about?
Yeah, so I gotta get my podcast voice on. So what to do, my peoples? This is T Nick Mood, Enigmas Unchained. You know, but you know that the whole concept of Enigmas, you know, was my homie. You know, Mitchell Jackson. That's my dude. I think he's actually messaging me right now about something he's watching right now. You know, like, but that's my dude. We've been friends since we were 9 years old. You know, like it's a you know, it's like, you know, yeah, you know, it's a real one. You know, like you know, you got your boys. You got you got your day ones. You got your associates, which are like, you know, co-workers and stuff like that. You know, like that can upgrade to your real ones. You know, then you got your peers, and then you got passerbys. You know, the passerbys.
Right. You know them.
Yeah,
but
you know,
that's about it. I got you.
That's 90% of your Facebook friend group. Is passerbys. You know, like they don't care nothing about you. You know what I'm saying? But like, this dude, I know him. I mean, I got a couple other cats I've known just as long as him. But he has consistently been that dude that was always there. You know what I'm saying? Like and it was reciprocated. You know what I'm saying? We were close friends. You know what I'm saying? Our families, you know, we grew up in the same families for the most part. Because I would go to his family cookouts. He come to mine. You know what I'm saying? His moms and them started a joint in Ridgeway called Pig on a Ridge, which is like literally they get like a bunch of hogs and they like barbecue all of them and it's free. You know what I'm saying? You go out there and you grub until you need a bed. You know what I'm saying? So like it's old school, you know, but we, you know, we've always been you know, a little strange conversation. You know, we know not particularly cut from the same quote unquote black mold as a lot of other black people are when it comes to a lot of stuff. You know, we like rap, we like stuff like that, but we also like, you know, stuff like, you know, haikus and poetry. You know, and I ain't saying black folk don't like poetry. Don't get it twisted. You know what I'm saying? But you know, anime at the time was like outlawed. You know, like for black people to watch when we were younger. You know, like all you kids enjoying it right now, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Always like that, huh?
Yeah, you're welcome. You know, because we were the ones fighting in the trenches, so that way that it would actually be cool for black people to like it. But you know what I'm saying? But we were like in that situation when we were like, you know, weird, and I was the one that was
weird.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Weird, different, you know, like and enigmas to people in a sense, you know. So he ended up taking it and making it into a name when he called himself the Ice. And and it's like incorporated charismatic enigma. He might have to correct me on the ICE. But you know, he made that into his name. He called himself Ice Cold. You know what I'm saying? So I was always bugging. I said, why is ICE like an actual acronym? And he told me when we were in college, because we went to the same college together. You know what I'm saying, too? So we graduated same year, went to college. He was my roommate. You know what I'm saying? Like, so we had lots of time to kick it and like bounce ideas off each other. And he told me what it meant. And I was like, oh, that's fire. You know, so when it came to us finally doing a podcast, it was pretty much the idea of taking those concepts, stuff that we normally kept to ourselves, things that we normally wouldn't talk about unless it was with our own people. And we just like, you know what, let's have fun with this. So let's go ahead and be real. You know what I'm saying? Let's go ahead and be real about this situation. And let's just take the restraints that we had on ourselves off when it came to conversation. You know what I'm saying? Like, so we just pulled the restraints off and we try to keep it clean, you know, because, and the only reason why is because we saw that our demographic was younger that were jumping in. So we were like, you know, let's keep it a little clean, you know, but that's the only restriction that we put on ourselves, you know, it's like just keeping it clean. But in the conversation, I mean, honestly, this is just me. I think sometimes the most audacious conversations are the ones that don't really have to cuss in. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about ones that like really wrap everything in here around verbally destroying an argument. You know what I'm saying? And like that's how Malcolm did it. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how Martin Luther did it. Martin Luther King did it. You know what I'm saying? That's how Mandela did it. You know, like they were enigmas that were unchained.
Okay, I got you.
You know what I'm saying? Like they were dudes that you didn't know that this one unassuming guy was gonna walk up to you and destroy you. in a conversation. Man, how in the world you think the folk felt getting Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X on TV thinking they're gonna get one over on him, and then they just leave embarrassed. You know, you know what I'm saying? Like Muhammad Ali just, I feel bad for folk. I was like, y'all don't know y'all messing with, man. Shout out to the greatest. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, but it's like, and I know it's you know, he's a boxer, so you know I had to throw that plug in. But you know, I had to throw that in there.
You know who you talking to.
You know, but yeah, you know, like that, they were dealing with enigmas. And you don't invite an enigma to a show expecting to get a fair fight when it comes to verbs and it comes to words. Nah, this is unfair. This is a fist fight. I'm using glass in this you're gonna get everything out of me. You know, and it was done so well that right now where we are in 2020, we can play back Malcolm in front of children as a lesson. You know what I'm saying? So we took that energy and we was like, you know, we goofy, so we do goofy things too. But the first pod, and this is not me trying to, this is just like facts now. So me and Sean had a conversation after the stuff happened after all the foolishness they still trying to resolve, quote unquote, about George Floyd, right? And I approached him with the idea for an episode, and it was called Perfection for Normalcy. And it was a real conversation. It was uncut, but it was not, there wasn't a bit of language in there that you could not play in front of anybody. You could play that in front of anybody on the planet right now. And the only way they'll be offended is that we offended their sensibilities, which is what we go for. If we gonna dig in there, let's dig in there. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I want you to be able to play this sucker back, and I don't want you to use this dude cuss as a doggone crush to dismantle my argument. Because that's what cats do. Well, you know, he uses colorful language, and I can't listen to him. I'm like, oh no, we're gonna cut all that out. You ain't got none of that. So the only thing you can disagree with is what I said. That's it. That's the only, and that was what we agreed on when we started. You know, we're fans of sport. Like, we're fans of sports. I'm a wrestling fan. Particularly, I'm a wrestling fan, which is a sad state to be in, but I can't help it. So you know, like, but you know, we're anime fans, comic book fans, movie fans. You know, then we also see things happening in the culture, and I'm like, yo, let's talk about this. You know, like let's actually let's talk about this stuff. You know, so we'll have goofy, you know, ones we make you laugh, and then we have some serious ones we make you think. It might make you feel uncomfortable where we go. You know, so, and that was the whole point. The point was that if we were going to talk, you didn't know where we were going to come from because we're enigmas to you. And then when you got into this conversation, it was an unchained conversation. This is the dog off the leash. And he ain't 8 in days. You don't know which direction he's going. You know what I'm saying? Like you just know he coming. You know, so and that's what we did, you know, with the podcast. It's like, and we're like, I think we're like close to 1,000 listeners now. You know, we've only been doing it for 4 months. You know, and that to me is an accomplishment because we don't advertise, you know, and we ain't like, you know, very, very popular, like on Facebook and on Instagram and stuff like that. These are like people you can attest to. You never met, you know, like get cats in Puerto Rico and the Netherlands and Germany and Japan, UK. You know, I'm like, I don't know these cats, but they found us and they like us and they follow us and they're like, yo, we like this, keep going.
But there was no way that I could, especially you. We've had our conversations throughout the years, man. We go back, and there was no way that I was going to have you, DA, on Champions Material, and we not talk about what's coming up in November. So
getting the goosebumps, bro.
It's here, man. It's just over a month out. I'm looking forward to it. We all are. Now, on the recent episode of Champions Material, myself and Ben, man, we broke it all down. You know, from the PS5 perspective, from the Xbox Series X perspective, what may or may not happen with Nintendo. I refuse to believe that they're just going to sit back and chill out and do nothing. But there was no way that I can get up out of Champions Material without getting just your overall take. Like, just where are you coming from as far as what you're looking forward to with next gen? You know, what are your impressions on what you know? What are some of the things you would still like to know? Like, just next generation gaming, go.
Okay. I want to start this off by something that I'm very highly upset about from the reveal. I literally recorded myself the whole time, and the only thing that I said over and over was "Show me the UI, Show me the trophies. I'm upset. Okay, I got it off my chest. That was okay. I literally over and over. Show me the UI.
Give it up. Give it up.
Like, Demon Souls. I don't want to see this UI. No, but seriously, I'm super excited for PS5. I mean, I already have an Xbox Series X. It's my PC, so I mean, you know, maybe I'll get Game Pass, maybe not. But yeah, I think PlayStation 5 is gonna run away with it this generation. But I mean, I'm calling it early. But the only things that I can see that would get in the way is really the Game Pass. Like if PlayStation doesn't have a answer, I mean, I know the PlayStation Plus collection is somewhat of an answer, but like, you know, you're especially with the newest with Xbox acquiring Bethesda and ZeniMax, like we don't know how that's going to shake out. Even though that doesn't affect me personally, that does affect a lot of people that care for Skyrim or Skyrim 2 or whatever's coming, Elder Scrolls 6, and then Fallout, and then, you know, Doom. Like there's a lot of big games there, but I honestly don't think that all that equals to, like, all of those games to me personally don't even equal to one PlayStation exclusive release. Like I like one PlayStation exclusive release is like 10 times better than any of those games to me personally. But I mean, I might just be a bit of a fanboy, but I just really feel like the way that the PlayStation is going to go about this is really going to be a win for them, even though they might be seen as less gamer forward with the whole, like, we're going to charge $70 for games. And, you know, Xbox, you might get it free day one. That's the only thing that I can see deter people. But, you know, one thing that's not going to happen day one on Game Pass is Horizon Forbidden West. God of War Ragnarok, that's not going to be on there. You think people are going to care about Xbox when those games come out? No. I mean, you know, I think Xbox is really trying to capitalize on, like, getting people to play longer experiences to keep them subscribed. And like PlayStation is, you know, they're really about that tight experience, that full package. You're in, you're out, and you loved it. And like, I just think that's still going to be king over anything that they can really do. That's just me. I am a little upset about the size of the hard drive, but or the SSD rather. But yeah, I just don't see Xbox really, like, I feel like they're gonna go the way of Sega eventually. Like, they might have a big boom at the beginning, but I don't know. Right now I'm feeling like PlayStation's gonna take it away. But I mean, how are you feeling?
You know what, man? And before I even, you know, I'm gonna kick it back to you just here for a moment because, you know, I know you talked about those exclusives or just games in general, right?
Mhm.
What are some of the games that you've seen revealed so far that really, and you talked about, you know, God of War, you talked about Forbidden West, Horizon Zero Dawn. Are there some other games that you've seen so far that really had you, like, when you saw the showcase, you went, holy shit, it's game time. I cannot wait to get my hands on that.
Yeah, Bugsnax.
And it's across all of them. Whether you talk you know, PlayStation, Xbox, you know, obviously Nintendo just had their direct, and I forgot the title that they showcased, but everybody's doing a little bit of something, man. So just in general, what are the games that you're looking forward to?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, Miles Morales looks amazing. Like, that's going to be crazy. Like, once we see everything on the machine with all the ray tracing and everything, and like the load speeds, like, that's one thing. That's kind of why I almost transitioned to PC, like 100% for everything that's not exclusive this gen, because, like, you know, I have an SSD and I see how amazing that is. And PlayStation 5 has like an SSD that's not even on the market for like PC gamers. So it's like, wow, they just pulled the PC gamer right out of me. But yeah, that's like, but yeah, for games other than that, like, I mean, Xbox doesn't really have anything that I care about. And if Nintendo's not talking Breath of the Wild 2, I don't really care right now. I mean, that's just the only, like, honestly, my Switch has sat there probably for 8 months. It hasn't been picked up.
Goodness, man. What was the 8 months. What was the last Switch game that you played that we talk about? Maybe that could be a future replayable, if nothing else, that at least grabbed you. You know what I mean, for that time.
Probably nothing since Octopath Traveler, and that was like 2018, maybe. I can't remember exactly when that was, but yeah, Octopath Traveler really pulled me in. But once it was over, I was out.
Oh yeah. And nothing, Xbox side, like for me, they did show a trailer, and goodness gracious, it was After the Dusk or it was like a Telltale style where, you know, it follows the story and those decisions will ultimately determine what happens. I forgot what the name of that game is off the top of my head. And then obviously Forza, as always, you know what I mean, looks amazing, everything like that. So
I mean, Hellblade, maybe, but
yeah.
I mean, the first one was all right. You know, it's not like I'm expecting the second one to be like mind blowing. I'll play it on PC since, you know, it's probably exclusive. I mean, we know it is. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I've already played the big game they showed off for me, and that's Ori and the Will of the Wisps. I already played that, and it was amazing. But I mean, I heard it had issues on Xbox. I'm glad I played it on PC. Because I mean, on PC, like I think they're marketing the Xbox Series X version as having 120 FPS. I was like, I had that on PC day one. So, I mean, I know PC is way more expensive, but I'm just saying, you know, like, I guess I'm biased because I've already played it. So like, other Xbox players are probably like, holy shit, you know, like that's crazy. But you also have to get a new TV. So like that's another thing that's not part of the conversation because a lot of these TVs don't support
and I'm glad
120 hertz. So I'm like man, Black Friday's coming. Like I have a Best Buy card. Let's swipe it up. But yeah, that's one thing that I'm worried about. Like I don't want to leave any performance on the table when it comes to my visual presentation. Because if the box can do it, I'm gonna be trying to figure out the best TV bang for buck. Like I'm not gonna go all out because that's just gonna be ridiculous. Because what in 2 years they're gonna be like, now you need to get that 8K. Now that we have content, you know, like, so I'm just gonna get an in between, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, that's the thing. A lot of people are hoping for that higher refresh rate, but a lot of the TVs are hardwired for 60 hertz. So I mean, granted, the console is going to output it. You're not going to get it.
Right.
So that's another thing. I don't even know if monitors have the 2.1. Sorry, I'm getting technical. But the HDMI 2.1 that's required to get these speeds, like they're going to really have to get the messaging right so people aren't going to be upset about getting the wrong TV and stuff. But I'll stop my rambling there.
No. And trust me, that was far from rambling, man. These are things that are, you know, we talk about the games and we talk about, you know what I mean, the systems, but you just brought up some great points that I think don't get discussed enough, and they will be discussed a lot more post-launch, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we still got some time, just over a month, give or take, but yeah, definitely clarity. We need some clarity on a few things. I want to double back to something that you mentioned previously, and you particularly as a PC, you know, as a person that definitely, you know, you dive as much into PC from gaming as you do with consoles.
Mm-hmm.
What are the main, and you talked about the SSD and there's some other factors, but one of the things that we've heard throughout the years from guys and ladies who are primarily PC players, one of the main things is the experience. Like the reality of the situation is if you invest in a PC to a certain, you know, to a certain degree, particularly with the cards you have, among other things, monitors, the whole nine, you're just going to get an experience on PC that a console just cannot provide. Now, the current gen that we're in right now, PS4, particularly the Pro, Xbox, particularly the One X, you know, you can. They flirt a little bit capability wise with what you could get on a PC, but again, at the same time, we're still talking apples and oranges as far as PC to the max, current gen consoles to the max. PS5, and you talked about, you know, the SSD that's not even on the market for PC yet, and there's some other factors. PS5, Xbox Series X, we can finally, for the first time, in my opinion, have like a legitimate conversation when it comes to PC players. That's like, you know what? Yeah, I'm primarily PC. I'll probably still be PC. But now reading these specs and what's going on with these next generation consoles on the way, okay, now I can be a little bit more, be a little bit more open-minded. Now we can have some conversations. Do you think that as we progress with this next generation of consoles, that we might be able to, there might be PC players that's like, okay, you know what, now, you know, especially if you have a console such as PlayStation where you still have console exclusives, right? Now I'm spoiled by PC and I'm not going to apologize for that. And now I might look to invest in these systems because from a capability standpoint, I'm getting for the first time on consoles a similar experience. Like how do you think PC players are going to respond this console generation with what we got coming?
I mean, I think there's going to be very positive, especially with like some of the PlayStation exclusive games coming to PC. Like I mean, I hear a lot of rumors of like the strategy, like they're trying to get people to like, hooked on like Horizon Zero Dawn so that when the new game comes out, can't get it anywhere but PlayStation. And it's like, that's a great idea. It's a brilliant strategy. I hope they do that with more games. But I think, yeah, like a lot of people, especially people that are like AMD fanatics, like they might buy one just because it has like the newest AMD technology that they can't get on their computer yet. Like fanboys might just dive in just because it has that. Like I think they call it RDNA 2. Like it's suspected to come to PC later this year, if not early next year. But like it's just that secret sauce that the PC people might be drawn to, especially since you're getting this SSD tech that might not even come to PC for a while. So they're like, well, maybe I should play some games here because all the benefits I was getting from PC, like ray tracing and DLSS and like the SSD load speeds and like, how stuff doesn't pop in and all that, like in high frame rates, like, that's the only thing that would maybe, I just touched on it. The only thing that might bring people back is the fact that a lot of the exclusives have already been confirmed that will probably be 30 FPS. And I understand why. Yeah. Ray tracing is very expensive, even on my rig. Like if I turn on ray tracing, it goes from like over 100 FPS to like almost under 60 on some games. So it's expensive to run, but if they can lock that at 30 with like their exclusives and I have all those effects running in like 4K, even if it's checkerboarding, it doesn't matter. Your eye sees amazing. So I think that PC gamers will be interested in it. It's just they're gonna need to see it firsthand probably. And I think a lot of them will want it to be quiet. I think that's the thing I'm hearing the most from people is like, I swear if it's not quiet, I'm gonna throw it out the window. I don't have that issue.
You're playing your PlayStation 5, aka your jet engine, right?
Yes. We don't want to be in the clouds every day. We want to be grounded. Exactly. We want to be firmly with our feet on the ground and a controller in our hands. But yeah, that's I think that they will be interested because that's another thing. Like a lot of PCs have gotten to the point, especially if you're enthusiasts, like even with the higher end stuff, like you have enough cooling and control over your fans that it's like quiet. Like if you're not playing games, you can make it like whisper. Like mine's quiet right now, like because I have all the fans turned down. So like I think that's another thing. Like if it's quiet and it does all those things, and then some games that are multi-platform can hit that 120 hertz. And like they actually have the means to have it happen. I think they'd be interested. For how long? I don't know because the graphics cards, like the new NVIDIA cards, just dropped, and I think they did that strategically to undercut console. Whatever they might have got from PC kind of trickled a little bit, but the lack of availability is really gonna, I think, hamstring the whole operation throughout the holidays. So I think PlayStation will come out okay, and a lot of PC people will probably dive in. But I don't see them coming in mass, because PC gamers are gonna be PC gamers. But you hook them with that one game. Like if they don't release Demon's Souls for PC, you might see some PC gamers buying some PS5s. That's like I hear so many people asking for that for PC, and like the possibility that the new one might come, they're just like beside themselves. So like if they don't do that, you might see a spike in PS5 purchases. There we go. Woo.
There you go. No, man, that's good stuff. No, there you go, man. There you have it. Good stuff right there. And I definitely wanted to get your take on it, man. And you brought up some perspectives that myself and Ben didn't necessarily cover. So, hopefully, I know I enjoyed that, and hopefully you all in the audience did as well. Let's get this thing going. From Stay Copping Kicks, my man, that dude Curtis Harvey. What's going on, brother?
What's up, Sean? Glad to be here.
Absolutely. And as always, every time you come through, man, I'm not only looking at you, but I'm looking at all them kicks behind you, man. I get jealous every time. It just never fails. Even got the grippies back there, man. I gotta come through there one time, check you out. But
Yeah, I was gonna reorganize it to make sure you could see the LeBrons, but because they back there, but I want to make sure you could see them. But I didn't do it this time.
And by the way, for all the folks out there on Champions Material that's listening to the podcast, what you're not seeing is the crispy fitted LA, new era that he's rocking. He's got the, and I thought it was the Kobe jersey, but no, man, he had to let me know this was number 23. In his mind, the 23, the LeBron James jersey. So he's all in, man. So let's just get right into it, man. We're not doing no layout. We just going to have a straight barbershop style conversation. LeBron James, this past, Sunday, captured his 4th ring. And if I'm not mistaken, he did it once again with a triple-double in the playoffs. I'm not sure, maybe Magic Johnson. I could be wrong. Somebody fact check me if you so choose to. More playoff triple-doubles, could be possibly more finals triple-doubles than any player in league history. His 4th ring. What is your views on Bron as you watched him under unprecedented circumstances get his 4th ring? And for all the questions throughout the year, was LeBron surpassed by Giannis? Was LeBron surpassed by Kawhi? Was LeBron surpassed by Harden? All these other players. When you watch LeBron do what he did in year 17 to get his 4th ring, what do you think about this man, and everything he was able to do?
Well, I'll start off with fact checking you. You are correct. Well, Magic's got more overall triple doubles in the playoffs at 30. LeBron's got 28, but LeBron is number 1 in the finals with triple doubles. Now,
wow.
As for my thoughts on the man, let me take it back for a minute. When LeBron was in high school, and I was in college, and I was not a LeBron fan. I was like, why? It's funny. I was reminded of it today when I saw this old ESPN ad that they ran in front of his high school game, where it's like Oscar, Magic, Wilt, Bird, and it's got all these legends. And then they like, will LeBron add his name to the list? And I'm like, this dude's in high school. Why you already comparing him to
days, huh? St. Vincent St. Mary. He wasn't even in the league
why
yet.
you already comparing him to these legends, man? He ain't done nothing. He in high school.
Yeah.
We don't know we don't know what he's gonna do in the league. I remember I wrote a paper about the fact that, I thought he was overrated. I thought he was ruining the game. Like, just a lot of foolishness now that I look back on it. Because the fact is, LeBron has been, he's been that dude since day one. And, as I've gotten older myself, as I've watched him grow, as I've seen him become the man that he is, and then learn about his life and stuff, that guy, he always says he wasn't supposed to be here, and he's right. When you look at, how, when he built his school, and he was talking about why it was important to him, and I think he said he missed like 150 days over like 2 years when he was between 4th and 5th grade. Imagine missing that many days of school, and that's because a lot of times he was literally homeless. Him and his mom were living out the car. You imagine like growing up like that, and then turning into arguably the greatest player ever. It's just been incredible to watch. And at this point, like, my thing has always been, when it comes to the GOAT, I've never liked the discussion of just automatically the default answer that we somehow came around to the 90s of where it was Jordan. I never understood that, because like when I talked to my father, when I would talk to any of the old heads from back then, there was always a discussion of the greatest players. Nobody ever said this guy was the absolute best at, as if they were the best at everything. People like my dad, he'll still to this day talks about Wilt Chamberlain. But even with talking about Wilt Chamberlain, he doesn't just say Wilt Chamberlain was the GOAT. He'll say Wilt Chamberlain was the, like the baddest thing I ever saw in the NBA. And he'll say, but he also talks about other guys. He loves to talk about Pee Wee Kirkland. He says that Pee Wee Kirkland is one of the greatest players that he witnessed firsthand.
Right.
And I laugh at him about it, but he'll always talk about that. But it was never like, you go back. I mean, with 11 rings, people try to omit Bill Russell now, and like downplay his accomplishments. But even then, he wasn't like, he was considered great, but I don't think people talked about him being the greatest. Then you go to Kareem. Again, even with the scoring records and the titles and the MVPs, he was considered great, but it wasn't people calling him the greatest. Same thing with Magic. But then all of a sudden, in the 90s, when sports media, when ESPN, when the 24-hour news cycle, when marketing, when everything took off to a certain aspect, this one guy just all of a sudden becomes the greatest, heads and shoulders better than everybody. And the crazy thing about it is that, because we talked about this before, they started calling him the greatest after 3 titles. Actually, it was after 2, but it was definitely after 3. Like after, and that's when like you had Sports Illustrated, you had just different magazines. You had the statue in Chicago. It says for the greatest on it. The greatest to ever play. This was after 3 titles. Magic had 5 at that point. Kareem had 6. Russell still had 11. So why, so relating that to the conversation we're having now, that's one of the reasons why I've never been opposed or had an issue when people started having the GOAT conversation with LeBron, because the fact of the matter is he's got the talent. And I think that's a lot of what happened with Mike. And as much as we like try to pit the two against each other, they have so much in common, from the way things happen. The problem is people lack perspective on it nowadays, because everybody is so obsessed with Mike. Everybody's up his butt. Everybody acts like he never missed a shot. He won every game and was perfect. Unless you actually talk to people who really reported stuff, you read more books and read more articles, you'll see that like a lot of the criticisms that LeBron has now are the same ones they used to give Mike. There were criticisms about clutch. There were criticisms about passing the ball. There were criticisms about not trusting teammates. But that's one difference between him and LeBron, because LeBron has always trusted his teammates, right? Even when they miss a shot. It's always he always tries to build his guys up, and that's one thing that is it's always been great to watch about him.
We started this part of the conversation with saying that this man is going to go into his 18th season as the best player in the league. We're just not going to see this again, man. And you know what? I've waited long enough. Let's just go ahead and get right into it. LeBron, Ramon James, Michael, Jeffrey Jordan. I'll just start with this. You will never convince me that I've seen a better basketball player at his absolute peak than what I saw in 1992 and 1993 from Michael Jordan. So when you're just saying at their best, if you want to when you say who's best or who would you take, at this point, there's 2 conversations. And Michael Jordan at this point, it's either 6 for 6 finals MVPs, or no one has ever been a better basketball player at their absolute best than Mike. If you're having a conversation as far as longevity, LeBron, at that point, there's no conversation in my mind when you go longevity. Jordan was Jordan for 13 years. He was an all-star caliber player. We talked about this previously on other podcasts. He was an all-star player, especially at that age, 39, 40, with Washington. The Jordan that we talk about, the Jordan that is always showing up in these debates, was 13 years. LeBron James has been LeBron James since, in my opinion, the 04-05 season, his 3rd season. Like basically starting from that point all the way up to what we just saw last Sunday, and with no signs of slowing down, by the way, he has been that dude since then. And his absolute peak, in my opinion, was 2012, 2013, the 27-game winning streak, when they came back to Ray Allen shot year, when they got ring number 2 in Miami, his ring, his second championship. So if you want to go longevity, LeBron James is getting to the point where he's going to win that argument comfortably. When you're saying who was their best, who was the best at their best, in my opinion, Michael Jordan, 1992, 1993, will win that argument comfortably any day of the week, twice on Sunday. What say you?
Well, here's something I was just thinking about as you were saying that. You know, you were saying we've never seen a basketball player as good as Michael Jordan. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's what you said.
Yes. 93 Mike,
So,
I've seen a better basketball player than Michael Jordan in 1993. Ever.
And I agree. That's, in my opinion, that's the best version of Mike as well. But as you were saying that, something came into my mind that, you know, I don't think we put enough stock into. Now, statistically speaking, you know, we know that all the numbers, most people will agree that regardless of where you fall on the side, on either side of the debate, that Michael Jordan had the higher peak.
Yes.
You know, but at the same time, again, thinking about what you just said, I started thinking about the fact that basketball is more than just scoring.
Right.
So, do you think? I'm gonna ask you this. Do you think that Michael Jordan had better court vision and passing than LeBron?
Michael Jordan is the better scorer. LeBron is the better. Michael Jordan is a better. So we're going to do it this way. I believe Michael Jordan was a better scorer. LeBron James clearly, and I'm saying clearly, comfortably, is a better passer based on size. And you're talking to a boxer. So, okay, pound for pound, rebound to me is a wash. But just based on just the facts on the ground, LeBron is a better rebounder. And there's no debate who was the better defender on or off ball. I won't even have a conversation. If somebody was to ever come to me and say, I believe LeBron James, and I'm including that his peak as far as a defender, guarding 1 through 4, we saw what he did to MVP Rose that year. I'm taking all of that into account. I believe LeBron's peak as a defender was 2010 through about 2014.
Okay, I get that.
Great defensive player and should have been defensive player of the year one of them years. They gave it to Marc Gasol. Don't ask me why. A whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. If you try to bring up any of those years at his best and you put it up against Jordan from 91, particularly from 91 through 96, I'm like, you got to go. We're done.
Yeah. But that's where we can have fun with the argument, because LeBron, you said 1 through 4. LeBron guarded 1 through 5, actually, and he did it fairly comfortably.
Yeah, he did.
You know, so you're talking about a guy. So you said that he's better. He got better court vision. He's a better passer. We know that.
Yes.
Rebounding is a wash, but his numbers are higher.
Right.
And then you can make the argument while Jordan was a better on his man defender, which you can even make an argument about that, because let's not forget, in 1991, Jordan got lit up by Magic in Game 1 of them finals, and they had to put Pippen on him. Jordan wasn't out there guarding the best guys. That was always LeBron. I mean, I'm sorry, that was always Pippen back then, and LeBron usually has to guard the best guy. This was the first season where he wasn't guarding the best guy. Yeah, he didn't have to, and even then he was guarding the best guy until the finals. In the finals is when Anthony Davis started guarding Jimmy Butler some of the time. You know, but in the previous series, Murray is the one who lit up the Clippers. And what happened when they played the Lakers? LeBron said, "I'm gonna wipe him out." You know, we go back to 2011. You know, everybody again. 2011 Finals was a bad showing, but everything up to that, LeBron's the one who erased Derrick Rose. You know, the fake MVP. You know, so I mean. Here's the thing. Like I said, I will always say, and right now nothing has changed my mind. And maybe if I keep thinking about it, I keep looking at stuff, it might change one day. I will always say that Lord Jordan had the better peak. But when I think about the totality of what makes a great basketball player, I think there is an argument that you could say that if you're talking about a total basketball player, LeBron was the total. He's the total package. You know, again, you say Jordan was a better scorer. We can't deny that, but let's not act like, you know, that LeBron was Harold Miner or something. I mean, You know, he's still like I said, 27-7-7. You know,
That
all
man
the
is
time.
going to end up. This is crazy. His longevity, and again, the greatest NBA career. I'm not saying college because obviously at that point it's either Russell or Jabbar, and there's no conversation if you want to combine college and pro, Russell or Jabbar. But I'm saying NBA career. LeBron's going to have the best NBA career when it's all said and done that we've ever seen, and he is going to again. I'm the one that's sitting here saying that Jordan is the better pure scorer. LeBron is going to end up as the NBA's all-time leading scorer, and he's probably going to end up in the top 5 of all time in assist. Crazy. Joining me today is a very special guest. This young man means everything to me, and there was just no other way for me to close out season 1 of Champions Material. Ladies and gentlemen, the champ is here, my son. Sebastian, welcome to Champions Material, man.
Yo, what's up? I'm Sebastian, and yeah, let's get into this.
But we know why we're really here. These next 2 topics. Let's just keep it real.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So gaming, you know, I had mentioned at the top that this young man is a gamer. Ironically, and I love this, you know, for the camera out there, you know, this was his choice to pull Super Street Fighter 4 on the PlayStation 3 and bring that out on a previous episode of Champions Material. It meant a lot to me that he on the previous episode of Champions Material, I talked about Street Fighter 2, Hyper Fighting, way back in the day on the Sega Genesis, as the game that grabbed me, where from that point on, I knew in some way, shape, or form, I was going to be a gamer as long as there were games from different genres that were done right. It's interesting that the champion chose to showcase this game for our episode, the final episode for this season. And we can't even get into everything else without telling the story behind this game and why this game made you a gamer. Let the people know, man.
So I was 3 years old at the time. I watched my dad. My dad played this game, and his best character was Dudley. He was going around dominating with Dudley. So I decided, you know, let me give it a try, but I don't want to only pick Dudley. So I decided to try a character. His name is Abel. So the first time I played the game, you know, I was new to the game, you know, and this is a very technical game, so I wasn't the best at it at the time. But I decided to keep going because there was something about it where it was like you lost, but you knew you could win, so you played again, and you just kept going until you won. I hated Seth because he had Dhalsim's arms, but he had Gao's Sonic Boom, and then he had the Shoryuken, so he was so good. But I learned to beat him, and then I think I was 4 at the time. Is when I hit my first critical art. I was using Dudley actually, and I was playing against a Akuma, and it was crazy because I wasn't even trying to do it. Actually, I don't know what I was trying to do, but I was trying to do something, and I just heard try and counter this, and I was like, whoa, I did it. And I did the corkscrew cross with Dudley, and the picture is upstairs in your room.
It is.
I did his animation when he would do the corkscrew cross. He would cross his arms, and I did the same thing. And I just stood there because I was thinking in my head, like, I'm the best player in the world. But yeah, it was just an amazing moment. And ever since then, I was like, nah, I'm going to keep playing these games, you know, until, you know, gaming dies out, which will never happen. I'm going to keep playing these games, and I'm going to keep loving games. So, yeah, that's the original story of how I became, you know, into the gaming realm.
Absolutely, man. It's crazy. And it cannot be overlooked that he was 3, 4, 5 doing this, right? It's just certain things that are instinctual. Like there's certain things you just can't be taught. You know what I mean? It's one thing to have a passion for it. It's another thing to just kind of understand like what you're playing, what you're doing, and like figuring out and sticking with it. Like you said, okay, even if I was taking losses early, and it's a good life lesson too. I'm glad you pointed that out when you was telling the story. You know, when it comes to gaming, just like when it comes to life, we talked about this previously. You're going to take some losses. It's about how you respond in those moments. It's about what you do in that situation. And if you really have a passion for anything, you will stick with it until you get better. And he is now 13. And let's just say that at this point, he gives me a run for my money anytime we play now Street Fighter V. So, you know, that moment, that photo, which I still have to this day, is my favorite, is still today my favorite individual photo that I have of him, because I will always remember that moment and just like what it meant and still what it means today. So boxing is the reason why I primarily will always put that first and foremost individually, as far as, you know, applying it to other areas of life, is because it's going to teach you life lessons. It's going to teach you how to, you know, take, you know, some adversity and how to come back, how to adjust when something's not working and come back. So that boxing has always been and always will be my first love. I led this season with that. I led this show with that purposefully, because I wanted to, you know, I wanted the audience out there to know exactly, if I wanted you all to get to know me, particularly on the first episode, if you were going to get to know me, boxing, that's where it starts. And the champion here, again, I call him a champion for a reason. You know, he has watched his dad fight, spar, still trained to this day. He's seen it all. And you know what I mean, developed a love for it, man. So, you know, beyond me, this was something that, you know, for you decided that, okay, I like boxing. And, you know, you finally got down to the gym and, you know, got into it. Coach Massey, shout out to Inner City Boxing. That's what they do, man. You know, they give you an opportunity to be better if you want willing to put in the work. You put in hard work, the slogan is iron sharpens iron. You put in the work, they'll take care of the rest. Got you down there, man, and you just really like fell in. I think that was the first, I would say that's the first thing, you know, as far as activity that we got you involved in, where it just felt like when you got in there, you just, for you decided, okay, this is it. What is it about boxing for you that really, it grabbed you the way that it, I know the audience knows now how it grabbed me. What was it about boxing that grabbed you?
I think when I first went to the gym, I saw kids my age doing that stuff, and I was like, whoa, I didn't know like you could do that. So I started watching, and I was like, yo, this is dope. So I decided to try it myself. Coach Massey was always on me about, you know, everything. But I was, you know, a little skinny kid, you know, didn't really know how to fight as well as I do now. But he did, you know, give me a shot, and he stayed on me, and I got better, and it just was so great to me. And the first time I got into the ring, it was like an adrenaline rush. I didn't really know. I didn't really know exactly what I was doing or where I was. I just focused on the opponent who was ahead of me. So getting in the ring, you know, it's crazy. Like, it's not crazy, but it taught, like, getting in the ring taught me a lot of things. I've been hit hard, really hard, in the past, you know. So, but I've been taught, you know, to get back up, you know, to keep it moving and try your best. You know, I love my boxers. I study hard. I do my research on all the boxers that I'm interested in. So yeah, everything about boxing, you know, I could give you a run for your money. Like, when it comes to boxing, like, I can put up a fair argument with you, in my opinion, because, you know, I've gone back and done my research, and because I just love the sport so much. I took karate, but it wasn't really for me. The only reason why I really got into karate, because I saw, you know, all the movies and all the cool stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to do that too. And so I realized it's gonna take years for me to do this. But boxing was like, it'll take me years to get good at this, and I don't care, because I'll get good at this. So yeah, that's just how boxing got it for me.
Trev, you have always had my respect, and you always will, man. And I love, you know, what you said on the back end of that is, you know, you got to shoot your shot. You know, as we say back home, you can't knock them down if you don't shoot them.
Facts.
Kobe.
Yeah.
Kobe, you know what I mean? So you've always had my respect, man. You've always had my respect. So, you know what? On that note, I want to thank you, brother, for coming through Champions Material, man. This here right here, like you know, on point from start to finish, man. I said it at the top. Everything that you've done for me, particularly with getting into this game, all the conversations we've had, the support beyond the podcasting side of it, just the deep conversations that we've had just on life, man. It has always stuck with me, man, and I'll never forget it, you know, ever, period. before we get out of here, man, we got to let the people know where they can find you and everything that you're working on, man.
No, hold up. I got a question for you.
Hold on.
I got a question for you, man. So yeah, like, and this is for all the folk that's listening too, so they can hear your heart. Because I think that's very important.
Okay.
Like you're like, I think this will be like what, episode 6 or 7? Somewhere.
Still wrapping, still getting them.
So you're midway. You're at the midway point. So my question for you is, how much do you want to do, and what do you see yourself doing? I need you to shot call for yourself now.
That's a very good question, man. One of the things for me is quality over quantity.
Okay.
And never putting too much in front of me, where if I have too much going on at the same time, then I'm not giving each individual goal the right amount of time, the proper time.
Yeah.
This podcast has been very personally fulfilling for me, because it's taking something that was an idea for a very long time, turning it into, a reality. And it's been very important that I give it the proper time to continue to learn and grow. One thing I've already figured out is you'll never stop. It's like golf. You'll never master it.
Yeah.
The thing that you want to do is ultimately look at yourself and say, okay, but am I making progress? Am I evolving? Right? Am I doing my due diligence to provide the people who take the time to listen to what I'm doing? Am I doing my due diligence to make sure that it's worth their time? Because no one has to listen.
Exactly.
No one I don't care how many platforms this thing is available on. No one is required to open up said device and press play. They are making the conscious choice to do that. I am doing them a disservice if I don't give them 110. Exactly. I'm built like that naturally to begin with. So why wouldn't I apply that in mentality toward anything, including Champions material? Beyond that, I have an idea that it will come to fruition on it at the right time. And that is Champions material. We're going to move into the apparel side of things. Yeah. Because the message behind Champions material has always been this. And I say it at every single podcast that you hear. Whoever you want to be and whatever you want to be, always be the champion of it. And you know what? The greatest champions, have they been knocked down? They have. Yes. Have they actually taken some losses? They have. Mm-hmm. But you know what? They always come back, and they always come back better than what they were before. Absolutely. So this podcast game, I like where it's going, and I appreciate everyone and all your feedback that has helped. That's been a tremendous help to me. And, we're going to move into other areas, and there'll be a time and place where we'll get into that. But, just listening, just this podcast right here, man, and listening to how you've grown in multiple areas and everything that you're doing, it inspires me to, do the same, but do the same in a way where it's within, what's the word I'm looking for? It's done right. If you sometimes, you want to bake something and it's edible. I should say. And it's edible when you throw it in the microwave.
Yeah.
It's a little different when you turn that thing to 400.
Yeah.
All right. Throw it in that oven, and then you take it out and you flip it, and then you put it back in there and you allow that thing to marinate.
Yes, sir.
So this podcast right now, I'm letting this thing marinate and I'm building. Yeah. And I'm never too proud to, ask for advice. And I'm never too proud to take the feedback that I've gotten. And it allows me to see things from a different perspective, just to get this thing, to a point where it continues to grow. I can't ask for the audience to, to grow and take the time. I'm not willing to do the same. So, man, it's been great, man. And, we'll see we'll see what happens down the road, but I know that whatever happens, I'll be ready for it, and I'll give 110, man. So I'm glad you brought that up. That was as we say in boxing, that was the punch I didn't see coming, man. But
yeah, I mean, like, I'm your podcast teacher. So so I'm like, that's no, I can't not ask him one question.
Yeah.
But on the real, very proud of you, brother. I mean, this has been a privilege and an honor. I love seeing you grow. I'm a fan of what you're doing. Like I said, while you were saying your quote, I was quoting it with you because I love it. I love it because I mean, like this is the guy, people. This is the guy that when we were in strange places, I'm talking about like, you know, we in LA and this sucker is outside at 5 a.m. jogging in LA. You know what I'm saying? Man, we in Vegas, and Vegas, like literally, there's like 4 people that got shot at night. This happened, okay? I'm just letting you know how hood this dude is, okay? So we in Vegas, 3-4 people been shot the night previously. All their bodies left uncovered. Guess what Sean doing at 4 a.m. in the morning? Sean's in the gym, and he's killing it. And then he like headphones on, and he runs outside, and there's 4 bodies outside. He ain't care. You know, I'm like, what's Sean? That's always Sean out running. I'm like, it's like, did he even know that there's like manslaughter out? Like we had 4 bodies outside. You know, it was like, yeah, Sean went for his run. I'm like, I'm hoping that he saw this, but now you didn't see it. That's just one of the things that I really do like. I really do like about you, and I appreciate about you. It motivated me because you didn't give yourself any excuses. Know where you are. You know, and that is a powerful thing. You know, like for anybody that's listening, you know, I would say take that mentality that Sean has been training himself to get, whereas I don't care where I'm at, wherever I'm supposed to be doing to get better, I'm gonna get better. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get better. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get better. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get better. You know, like that is one of them things that I before I cannot not say that. I gotta let you know that because that is seeing you do this. I'll notice Sean, that guy at 4 a.m. and ran past bodies. You know, so if Sean could do that, then podcasting is a breeze. And shout out to everybody that's listening to him for real. I mean, I told him when he started. And this is not to blow smoke up my own behind. This is just because I really do appreciate this brother. He has a good voice. And I told him, I said, you don't know. You know what I'm about to say. You don't know how much somebody needs your voice until you speak. And I'm seeing the results of that from him speaking. You know, that people are listening, they're being encouraged, and they're having a good time with him. I had a good time, always have a good time with him though. You know what I'm saying? But like that, I just wanted to say that before we ended it all for this episode is that, you know, that's a major thing with this dude is that he refuses to lay down. Refuses to lay down. You might get smacked up. You might see his face a little dejected, but that don't mean that he out the game. And I encourage everybody that's on this joint, not to hijack your show, but I encourage everybody that's on this joint that's listening, that when they get knocked down for real, a champion is not measured by his victories. Normally, that's what we always think about. We think about the championships, but the champion is measured by how well they stuck to the fight. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to you, brother. Much love and respect for what you got going on here.
A major part of my passion for Champions Material or anything that I do is you, and it's your sister, you know, Queen Jasmine, aka QJ. My thanks to you for the audience. Thanks to you, the audience out there, for taking the time to listen and tune in and provide feedback throughout the season. That helped in more ways, more than you can ever know. When there were times where I wasn't quite sure of, you know, where I was going with this and how it's being received, it would always be that timely text message. It would always be that timely email. It would always be that timely correspondence to remind me, hey, you got this. Like, you're doing great work. I'm making time. That's the reason why I make time for it. And that has been tremendous. I've learned a lot. I've grown a lot. And there's definitely more to come. We approached this season with the idea of taking different topics, learning, growing, and hopefully, you know, giving you all, the audience, you know, something positive to take with you. And before we get out of here, man, I just wanted to also mention this. You know, this is just the start. And everything that I'm doing is trying to set an example for you to say, okay, you do it with gaming, you've done it with boxing, you've done it in other areas too that we didn't necessarily get into today. But I will say this, when you choose to lock in and focus, you're as good as it gets. And I've always been proud of you. You know, the transition from me being the man that I was back in the day, and I was far from perfect back in the day, but the transition from me being the man I was back in the day to the man I am today started with you. When you came into my life, game over. It was time for me to step my game up. It was time for me to mature in a way that I hadn't previously done so. And I can only hope that, you know, I'm not perfect, but I can only hope that as your dad, that I've provided, you know, you with a blueprint or example of, you know what, you know, as I'm coming up and as I become an adult, you know, I can look to that man, and I will still be my own man. I'm growing to be my own man, but I can look to that man as far as like just ways I want to move and operate out here. So hopefully I've been able to do that for you.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah, no doubt, man. So as always, shoot any feedback that you have over to champions.materialsv@gmail.com. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Of course, you can also check us out on the official Champions Material YouTube channel. There we post episodes, and this episode, without question, will be featured on there. One thing I will say is this, you know, as we close out season 1, please believe we're coming back bigger, better, and stronger for season 2. We have some ideas that we are implementing that are going to be implemented or that are in the works. Definitely stay tuned for those updates. And I've said it on every episode of Champions Material, and I will say it for the final time, season 1. Never forget, champ.
Whoever you want to be and whatever you want to be, always be the champion of it. That's Champions Material.
You heard it from the champion. That's a champion talking Champions Material. Enough said. Everyone, be safe out there. Stay tuned. Again, we're going to have updates for season 2 down the line. But for now, we're done.